Hello, Gonky.
Hello, Mover. How are you?
Just hoping I'm here.
I'm shocked. I'm not talking to myself.
Yeah, I hope not. All right. So now that we've established we're here, before we get started, I kind of wanted to start with a in memoriam, if you will, memorial for a good friend of mine from the B course in, 2008. This was an article I wrote for back in the day. It was called Fighter Sweep, and the title's not right, but so in 2008, on March 14th, I lost a good friend, and our class at Luke lost a good friend. David Jinx Mitchell, second lieutenant. He was a guard guy out of Ohio, and he was doing basic fighter maneuvers. And it's about the third set, I think, fighting the squadron commander. And he had an incident with G-induced loss of consciousness. And he left behind his wife, Christy, and his, at the time, unborn son, Braden, who now would be, which is crazy, 16 years old at this point. So he's kind of moving his way into adulthood. But it was a tough time for our squadron, tough time for all of us. And he was just a great guy, an outstanding American, the real Jinx. So I just wanted to just bring attention to that. We always talk about him, or I try to bring him up every Memorial Day when we do our Memorial Day stuff. But the anniversary just happened on the 14th, and it was kind of a tweener between last week and this week. And, last week we had all the technical difficulties. So nickel on the grass for a great fighter pilot. And here's to you, my friend. So,
yeah. Sorry, man.
Yeah, no. Anyway, back to the show.
Well, do we real quick? I mean, Doug, did you make it too? Are you there?
So far, so good.
Nice. Mover, what's been going on? You got? I heard maybe you made the local.
Dude, the land of 1,000 interviews. I've been so this week. Luna was just in here because I think she thought it was another interview. We did local news. We did National Police Association, and I was on Casmo's channel Tuesday right after we did our show. And Casmo's like, man, that's the most relaxed you've seen, because number one, everything worked. And number two, I didn't have to run it for a change. So I'm just sitting here like, ask me a question.
Whoa. Are you insinuating that?
Let's just talk about me and ask me all the questions. It's a lot different as a guest. So just so you know, if you're wondering, which I hear you're going to be on the show too.
Yeah, I think we're shooting for next week.
Will you be revealing the origins of your call sign?
Oh, no chance. I mean, unless Casmo wants to get demonetized immediately.
You say yes to drive
the traffic.
Yeah, help Casmo out. Say yes now.
Yeah, why not?
Stay tuned. Yeah, just for that. But Luna and I, so it's been drama with police vehicles and stuff, but we got a loaner, a Dodge Durango, for a couple weeks, and it was perfect for our interviews and stuff like that. They did a whole feature. You can check it out. I don't have the link, but
I watched it. It's good, man. The local news channel did a nice thing.
Yeah, it's funny because you spend 20 minutes talking and they use like 4 words, and then they move on to the next thing. But Luna was awesome. She's a great dog, and it's amazing to me just how life works out. Because when I got her, I was kind of like, I'm going to take her back. I didn't think it was going to work out, and then she stayed, and then I lost the boys, which I never thought I'd be able to get through just by itself, because I thought that would be very hard to deal with. And then we turned something awful into something great. And I'm pretty proud of what we've done. And on that note, you and I, Gonky, we've talked about this. We've had a little bit of hate mail lately. A lot of hate mail. You've had some on your channel.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about it in the past, as far as, I guess. Thankfully, the more people we reach, and the larger the audience gets, obviously you're going to have people with some strong opinions.
Yeah. Well, and so I wanted to address one of them, and I think you said you wanted to address one from your video, because we clip up these videos, right? People don't understand. We do one big show, and then we take them and we make topics out of them, and sometimes context is lost. And we just got a new editor, so we're still working out the kinks. Like this very video, the editing actually had 2 intros. So it had the intro plus the disclaimer, and then we talked for a minute, and then he did the intro and disclaimer again. And somebody's like, "Oh, it must be important to have two disclaimers," which we're working out. And I've been so busy that I've kind of trusted him as far as the edits. And I know you're probably the same way, Gonky, that it's just kind of like fire and forget at some point, because we just hope it works. But
right.
This comment came from somebody, and I wanted to address it just because of the jokes that we made. And it's from Goldfish, and he says, "Can you possibly be more condescending?" This is the F-15 supersonic thing that we talked about. "Not everybody would recognize what a sonic boom is. You always talk about mental health. Maybe the next talk should be about not demeaning lower income folks who have been traumatized. I now understand why the military doesn't want you to fly. Definitely mental unstable. After this one, good luck keeping your job with law enforcement. For somebody who does so much good for so many people, how do you lay such an egg?" Boy, and that hit a whole bunch of personal topics all at once, right? They talked about why you're not flying anymore. Me, not you. Losing my volunteer job with law enforcement, mental health, all that stuff. So let me address a couple things, because I can't let that one just sit there. Number one, I think just about everybody knows that I grew up in the most rural part of Louisiana, for the first 20 years of my life, 19 years of my life, like out in the crawfish fields, right, Doug? Wouldn't you say that's probably out in the crawfish fields out there?
Literally,
yeah.
Me too.
My whole family are these people, like the salt of the earth. I mean, if you go to like my uncle's house, it's just trailers in the woods. They've got houses
trailers,
now, and there's nothing wrong with that. And we said that in that video. I've been a NASCAR fan my whole life. When I made the joke about Jeff Gordon, it's because I know Dale Earnhardt fans typically are not Jeff Gordon fans. And about the Dale Earnhardt figurines, it's just a joke. Like, I think people take this personally, which, by the way, this guy lives in like Maryland, and to me, he's a Yankee. Like, if you live in Maryland, if you live that far north, you have no business talking about making fun of people from the South, because you're not from the South. Trust me.
Yikes.
But everything we do, we've said this before, this is irreverent commentary with talk of fighter pilots as if we're in a ready room or a squadron bar or just a squadron. It's 2 bros shooting the shit and just having a good time talking about stuff. And that's what people do that are sarcastic. We make jokes, and we poke fun at ourselves. We poke fun at our people. Gonky has made fun of himself many times.
Pretty easy.
As a person who grew up in a trailer, I approve this message.
Yeah. So yeah. I just, it's one thing, like, I get it. Okay. You might think we were condescending. I disagree. I think it's funny, as especially hearing a 911 call like that as a cop, because I just sit there and groan, because you see all of the stuff from the most ridiculous to very serious stuff. And you have to have that sense of humor in between, because that's just a coping mechanism. This particular case, I don't buy for a second that the person calling 911 was traumatized. He was more concerned. And we talked about it before, that these are the salt of the earth people. They're good people. I don't have anything against any of them. But do I think it's funny that the Dale Earnhardt figurines may have fallen off their bookcase? Yes. Is that a funny joke? Yes. Am I going to apologize for that? No. Sorry. I regret it.
It didn't fall off the shelf. It fell off the TV that was sitting on top of the old TV that they never got rid of.
It fell off the TV that was on top of their the food tray. It
was next to the rabbit ears, man.
Yeah, it was next to the rabbit ears. But anyway, whatever, man. You don't like our humor, that's fine, but there's no reason to get personal. The reason we're not flying is because of budget cuts, because our squadron was defunded.
Sorta.
That's a hurricane hit, our squadron was defunded, and then we found ourselves on the outside looking in.
Yeah. Well, I think most people that watch it live are you wouldn't have any problems really with them. It's, you know, the people, I think after the fact, it's just amazing to me how serious people can be about things, how quickly people can be triggered. You know, obviously we smoke and joke a lot here, which is what we do in real life, you know?
Yeah. Well, 0% chance of losing a volunteer law enforcement gig or not flying as a result of jokes like that. I guarantee you.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you know, hey, we can address it, but I mean, I think the hate's still going to come because just people.
For sure.
I think some people don't even watch some of the clips we put out. They just like, they just see the thumbnail, get triggered. And
I ask some of these people at the end, I'm like, well, did you watch the whole thing? Because I did say, unless the editor edited this part out, which I didn't watch the whole thing, but I'm pretty sure at the end I said, all jokes aside, these are good people. Yeah. You know, they're blue collar, salt of the earth. They're doing their best. They were genuinely concerned.
Yep.
I mean, you can't fault them for it, but it is funny. I mean, you know, they may think the aliens are attacking, but it's still funny. I mean, and it's always going to be funny. And I can make those jokes because I grew up around them. I'm one of them. They are me. I am them. And Tim says nothing. Thank you,
Thanks,
Tim.
Appreciate it, man.
Bob says your interview with Casmo was outstanding. Thanks, Bob. Can't wait to see Gonky's. I'm going to heckle you in the comments. Like I'm going to watch the whole thing and just heckle.
No, I'm turning super chat on. You're going to go broke heckling me.
No, is it on your channel or is it on his channel?
It's on his, man.
His channel, yeah.
I'm going to tell him to turn on super chat. Be like, dude, don't let.
No. Don't get greedy, Gonky. How much would I have to donate to get a Gonky call sign explanation?
A lot. A lot.
$1 million. Just enough that when we get demonetized, it can cover Gonky's trailer park bills.
Yeah.
John says, great to hear Luna got her unit. No. Got her unit squared away and the interview was fantastic. No, we didn't get no, that is not true. Unfortunately, it is not squared away, but things are things. Warranted, she was a star and they cut Mover off a lot. Well, you know, I'm just the treat dealer. I don't need to be a part of that. Angie's 169 giggity. Mover ruins 911 season 7 premiere. That's very specific. Oh, they spoofed though. We lost the F-35, but changed it to an F-16s with pilots knowing how to disarm bombs. Damn it! Now I've got to watch that.
Can ruin it.
Can't be any worse than The Rookie. It's a hilarious joke. Look at the avatar. It's a hilarious joke. Grew up with people who took a week off from school when Dale died. They'd probably laugh. I was upset when Dale died. I'm still upset. You know, praise Hale, praise Dale. I mean,
I still say Dale, do it for Dale at the beginning of every iRacing race.
Yeah.
Like what, 25 years? That's crazy.
2001, 23 years, 24 years, 23 years. Math is hard. See, math is hard for my people. Tim says, being a formal Marine, we joke about everything. It's all about having a good time, making the time fly by. Yeah. I mean, Trigger 118, member for 3 months. Thank you. The internet commando would flip his lid if he heard some of the jokes made at police departments. Dark humor helps with cope with shit calls. Yeah. And we're just the whole point of that was 911 was not going to help you, you know, and I put myself in that poor deputy that got dispatched to it. Cause I'm like, I don't know what to do here. You know, what do I do with this call? How can I clear this call without writing a report? Cause it sounds too complicated. Corvette World Rob. Love you guys. Keep it the great Corvette World.
Thanks, man.
Dude, I'm pretty sure Rob had an article or a YouTube video made about him recently. I think I saw him. He's famous. He's got the largest used Corvette.
Oh, I've seen some of his stuff.
World. Yeah. So pretty cool. Plexi. Seriously, guys, you're always going to have a small percentage of people get offended by a joke, no matter what the joke is, and you're always going to hear from those. I know. I think when you hit those like very personal, like you got to defend that. You know, you're like, hey, because trust me, mental health is very important to me, and I'm not going to back away from that. And the work that's being done with Luna is very important to me. And when you come after that and say that, you know, a joke is somehow going to undo all that work, I just want to clear the airwaves before we move on to Gonky's No. Sorry. Hey, Gonky.
Yes, sir. Oh, yeah.
By the way, are you doing this? You haven't told me. So Fox 3 MS is doing a DCS tournament. It's a little different than what we usually have done, like the dogfighting tournaments. It's like all kinds of things. It's like a canyon run, a landing competition, a low level, like the Tom Cruise thing from Maverick. You know how many seconds you can get it through the canyon. Yeah, and they're gonna.
How many times can you hit the wall?
I think 0.
Zero.
I think 0. We're not competing. We're just gonna trash talk. And it affects Canines for Warriors is what
cool.
Which is really cool. Yeah, it's a really cool idea. So we'll be doing that, or I will. I don't know if Gonky, depends on your schedule. Yeah. So it's a bomb run. Can you deliver ordnance on target while navigating a big word of stress? Maelstrom. Why would you use these words? My people don't know this. Caucasus Mountain Rally. Speed through the treacherous mountains. See, I revert.
I know.
Speed through the treacherous mountains of the Caucasus in a race against time. Will you emerge as the undisputed champion? So that's the Maverick thing right there. And then landing legends. That's for you, Gonky, because the Navy only cares about landing.
No, we like taking off too.
Yeah.
You can't land unless you take off.
Your entire tactical prowess is the motherhood questions. So anyway, join us for that. That'll be fun. And we like dogs. So we support the dogs. You know.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Moving on to the news. I didn't realize I was first. See, I shouldn't have done that.
You can put one of mine first.
No, I got it right here. Drones have swarmed Langley. Did you know that?
Yeah, I read that. That's pretty crazy. Here's the thing though. Was it drones or was it, dare I say, the unidentified flying thingies?
It could have been the aliens. It could have been.
Well, there you go. You just said it.
So, well, we say it
right.
For starts with a wah, ends with a bat.
Keep going.
In the news, mysterious drones swarmed Langley for weeks. So much so that they sent up a NASA WB-57 high altitude jet. And they were basically saying that the spate of bizarre drone incursions deeply underscores the still growing threats to the uncrewed aerial systems. Our next segment, we're actually going to talk about that a little bit and deep dive into the big brain stuff. But to protect operational security, they don't talk about the impacts. But that's Langley, right? Langley is where the Raptors are.
Yep.
Tyndall moved to Eglin, then they moved to Langley. That's where all the T-38s went. So they could be spying on our old T-38s because to see how they're still flying after 70 years. Like, they may want to know, how do you keep a jet flying for 70 years that Gonky landed at least 100 times?
Money.
And they also have this, but I don't know that it's saying that they actually went and looked at the ships, but it's possible. They said it's unclear whether that happened. But at a hearing before the Senate Armed Services Committee, U.S. Air Force General, is that French, Doug? Gillett?
I don't talk about French.
Yeah, oh, that's right. We do have a pending Manchester. That's true. Anyways, the deputy commander of CENTCOM, he said, upon taking command, I'm beginning a 90-day assessment to inform the Department of Defense, the Joint Force, and Congress on their ability to execute assigned task. Once complete, I look forward to the sharing of findings. As part of that, the counter uncrewed aerial aircraft system mission dominated the first month. There were many incursions during this time, and they talk about all of the activity going on trying to find it. December 12th, 2023, 8 Vipers, 4 tankers, 2 combat air patrols over Virginia. So it was kind of a big deal. And then the WB-57 started doing imaging at 22,000 feet, circling around. Look at that thing, man. Just right over it. But look at that. Would you fly that, Gonky?
No, dude.
You wouldn't fly it?
Dude, I'm superficial. That thing's ugly. Come on.
So they've been conducting routine mission, airspace warning, and airspace control. We can't confirm we conducted flight activities, but they're not going to say what. I have to refer you to the FBI on the law enforcement issue. So a lot of speculation and talking around it. This is not the first time Langley and other military bases across the country have had drone overflights. Remember, they had that drone swarm off the coast, that boat. Remember the ship and the little drones were out, and they were kind of worried about that. But they've identified threats to drones posed as a flight line as a specific point of concern. Right now, it appears to be innocuous. However, they laid out this exact scenario in 2017 in their own article, which you can go read on the War Zone. So, Gonky, aliens or China doing surveillance in preparation for something?
I don't know. Remember, I mean, there was a time not too long ago when we were flying Red Air where they were literally putting NOTAMs out. Right up on the East Coast there, Langley, Norfolk area, and even a little bit down here in the Panhandle, right? I mean, we had some guys see some stuff, and are these those unidentified phenomena thingies, or are these drones? Because I have to think if man-made drones are swarming you, dude, one of them's gonna crash. One of them's like, we're gonna get our hands on one of them.
Well, so I think this is more like what you see in Ukraine, these little small drones that you can attach weapons to, like little hand grenades and stuff. That's my concern, right? And we're going to talk about this in the next article, but if you are surveilling critical infrastructure, surveillance is just one step away from the Ukraine scenario, because they just did it. The Ukrainians just allegedly took out the A-50 on the ground. They went to their base. So if it's happening there, and could it happen here where, let's say, a big country is preparing for an attack somewhere across the world, they send their sleeper cells or whatever here and attack our infrastructure? That is the concern, because, first surveillance, then attacks, and it's the same drones.
I get it, but completely plausible. In my mind, it's if this is a swarm, meaning a lot of them, surely they have to launch right from somewhere.
I mean, you could do a dude throws them up. I mean, it's just take them out of a backpack and throw it up. I mean, you don't really have to launch from anything from a drone like that. I mean, we're talking like I got a Skydio back here. I mean, it's you can strap a warhead.
I get what I'm saying is, if it's being launched within the United States, a lot of them, I would think that we would probably be able to catch one of them. Maybe not, but I would think so. In the Ukraine scenario, it's a little different, right? These drones are on a one-way. They don't care. They don't care if they get caught, right? I mean, they know, right? Because the Russian, this one didn't make it. It's a broken drone, right? Or we shot it down. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I could see both sides of the spectrum. I think it's kind of crazy that something is buzzing around and they bring in this B-57 thing that first flew in 1953. I don't know what it's going to do or can do.
Yeah.
But I just wonder if it has ties to the NOTAMs that we were familiar with a couple years ago. I wonder if they're the same.
Yeah. I agree, but I think it's a different type of drone, or it's progressing, because here's the thing with these drones. They're small, they're hard to track, right? I mean, you're talking very lightweight, put them in a backpack, fly, come back, put it back in a backpack, and you're gone. Think about how long it takes to dispatch something. I've gone out to calls for like, I've talked about it, like lasers, people pointing lasers at airplanes. By the time like the FBI, by the time somebody notifies them that, hey, we've got this, then it goes to the FBI. The FBI calls local law enforcement. They go and, canvass the area. Maybe they have a helicopter. Maybe they have something. But by the time it gets there, you're talking, it's enough time for them to pack up and leave, especially if they've got a scanner or if they've got some way to surveil. My concern with this is the escalation, right? Because yes, at the very least, it's bad because they're getting intelligence. They're seeing, they're doing all the, getting good photographs of the F-22 and the critical infrastructure and all that stuff at the very least. But at the worst, Ukraine and Israel, those conflicts have shown us that they're taking out tanks. you know, how many videos have you seen where they have the FPV drone, the first person view drone, and they just fly right over and nobody knows they're there. And they drop the grenade into the turret, you know, into the whatever commander's seat, drop that in, and it takes out the whole tank.
Right.
Now, or it's a suicide drone. So that's actually just one drop in one. He can go back or it can go back. But then you take a suicide or a kamikaze drone or whatever, a one-way drone, it becomes a missile.
Right.
And now you've got a small missile. And, you know, foreign countries, I mean, DJI is a Chinese company. You know, DJI is a Chinese manufactured company. Drone technology is not like localized in one area, right?
Right.
You know, I mean,
yeah.
It's prolific. So it could be China. It could be terrorist cells. It could be, you know, Russia. It could be like, there are so many different threats that it could be, because it's not like nuclear technology where it's like, okay, we know pretty much who has it, who's developing it, and what their timeline is. This is something that I think there was one with the Houthis where they had sticks. Have you seen that one where they put the sticks together and made a drone? They actually fashioned a drone out of some sticks, because it really is not that difficult to create, but it's very hard to defend against.
Right.
And, you know, we kind of live in this, oh, everything is fine. But dude, I mean,
right.
It's scary.
No, I know. You combine drone technology with AI technology, and then it gets real freaky.
Well, and it does. Like I'm telling you, my Skydio back here, I've got a Skydio 2 Plus, and it will recognize a person, a dog, or whatever. You tell it to follow it, it'll follow you around, you know, and you can tell it, hey, I don't want you to look at me from this angle. I want you to look from this angle. And it just knows. And the more advanced government side of Skydio, which Skydio is an American company, the more advanced side of that, they're using it to autonomously do power line surveillance, pipeline surveillance. You know, drones are being used in crop dusting,
right?
Because it can just do the path, the predefined path. I don't think it's that far away, and I don't think it's that unrealistic that, you know, we should consider this a major threat right now.
Yeah, you bring up all good points. The whole, and like you said, there's a whole article we're going to talk about as far as drones and, you know, how they fit into the air warfare picture, and how do you defend against that? I mean, I don't know, man. Everything you said is completely valid. I just question where they're coming from. Because if it's truly a swarm, I would think via intelligence, eventually they're going to find out like where these, and I wonder, why did they bring in an airplane? Like, I don't even know.
I think it's a misnomer. I think the swarm is like, you know, a half a dozen, you know, at one point, but the swarm is not now. So the whole thing with swarming overwhelms defenses. But in this case, a onesie twosie, you know, like you've always talked about, one gets through, that's bad enough. You know, one that gets through is the one you worry about. Now, swarming overwhelms, but I don't know. We'll talk about that here in a second, because there's a whole article I found about the irrelevance of the Air Force because of this. But in this situation, it worries me because if, number one, it's brazen. You know, if it's a foreign actor, this is a brazen act of aggression or surveillance. You know, this is them going, because you're already violating laws, you know, because drones have to be registered. They can't fly. Like, they're actively out there violating federal law, but they don't care because the intelligence gained is greater than the risk of getting arrested or fined or whatever. But if they transition to hey, we want to take out your 5th gen capability because we want to go, you know, the Taiwan Strait or wherever, what's next in our agenda? Well, they've just, I mean, it's a flip of the switch now. You know, it's the next thing. So just scary.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree, man. I don't like it.
No.
That's just me.
All right, moving on. Before we get to the next article, I've got we've got some super chats to talk to real quick. Before we move on, M1 says, "Hello, gentlemen. There are a few people in Turkey who follow and love you. Greet them."
Hello, Turkey.
Turkey, yeah.
Yes.
Turkey, yeah.
we get people who blast us for saying it Turkey or Turkey. So there's to both everybody in Turkey. Yeah.
Jeff says, I called Mover a misogynist and I was wrong. Thank you. He was making fun of Miss America. No, I wasn't. And now I get that there are indeed a few guys having a beer at the O Club. First of all, no. I mean, I appreciate your apology. So I'll accept your apology, but your apology is still wrong because I was not making fun of Miss America. Except
this is true. Mover is a big supporter. I can attest to this. A very big supporter.
No. Miss America. First of all, no. The only thing I will make fun of Miss America for is the cringiest monologue in existence. True. That whole Cessna Skyhawk thing or whatever, go look it up. It's terrible. I don't know how she won that, but I'm good on her for winning. She soloed and did her check ride on the first ride. It's awesome. That's great. It was pretty bad.
You're not making fun of her. You're sharing your opinion.
Right. That part. And I didn't even say that in what he's talking about. I'm just saying that now. Like, that's my only beef with that. And she's marrying Goose. But
that's right. So sorry, Mover.
Really? So first off, but second, we were not making fun of Miss America. He's talking about the video we did about her flying in the jet and stuff like that. Right. At no point, except for the goofy way she got in the airplane, like where her is like ass, legs, head, like that whole thing. That was the only thing, and that wasn't even personal. That is something you would make fun of any ROTC cadet on the planet that does something like that on camera.
I did when the first time I ever got in the Hornet as a student. Like the IP looked at me, he goes, "Dude, you can step on the seat," because I was trying to.
Look, we have to get away from this. You say something, you're making fun of a person. We may be making fun of a scenario, but if you want somebody, so. In a situation like this, we were treating Miss America like any other fam rider. We were laughing at the way they were talking, the PR shop or AFE. We were making fun of the AFE process because we've all been there. We've done that. We've done fam rides. We were talking about. I told the story of the ROTC cadet where we did the Raptor fight and they were hurling in the back saying, "Stop!" I said, "Sorry, we fight. Let me know if you're dying because we're going to keep fighting." But there was nothing specific making fun of Miss America, Gonky. I mean, you watched it. You were there.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, Mover, there's just a whole lot of things that happen. It's like life, right? There's a lot of things that happen in life you just got to laugh at. And that's what we were doing because, like you said, we've been there. So it's comical to see, it again, somebody other than yourself. Going through AFE and figuring out how to actually climb into a jet, and I mean, there's just
I think people need
entertaining.
To give us the benefit of the doubt. I promise we are not being dicks. Like, that is not our intent. We laugh, we make fun, we're smart asses, quick-witted
100%.
sometimes, not all the time. But if I can say something funny, it's not meant to be personal.
Yeah,
we didn't personally attack her anyway. AJS says. AJS says if people are getting see, there you go, getting offended by unrealistic DCS dogfighted scenarios, I'm not surprised there's upset by a sonic boom joke. Oh my god, wait a minute, our dogfight scenarios are realistic.
Totally.
Yeah, talking about it. Bob says, "Hey Gonky from the Mobile Command Center." Yeah, Gonky wanted to prove how big of a redneck he is and that he would never make fun of his own people by doing this entire podcast. That's the dedication. That's the dedication of Gonky. He did the entire thing from the comfort of his mobile home.
Yeah, I am in the Mobile Command Center, Bob. My wife will not come out of that door. I got family visiting from back home in Ohio, and they've got the kids. There'd be no Gonky on the show tonight if I had to do it in my office, so to speak.
Well, there'd be Gonky and then some.
Yeah, random kids yelling, screaming. Probably my mom. She's 80 and doesn't know what the internet is.
So he's like, she's you.
She'd be tapping my shoulder. Hey, you want some soup?
Who are you talking to?
Yeah, who are these people?
Yeah, stop talking to movies.
Are you on the phone?
I want soup.
Yeah,
I want
I
soup.
know.
Jason says, love the show. Here's $20 because I passed my G550 type ride.
Oh, congrats,
Congratulations,
man. That's
Jason.
awesome.
Cheers, guys. Keep it up. Hell yeah.
Awesome, man. Thanks, dude.
Crazy
That's a nice
Pete says it follows you like a movie guided missile. It really does. So if I bring the remote, it'll track the remote like in the car and stuff. So I got some footage with like the Tahoe and stuff where I had an observer and we had it track the vehicle at slow speed. It'll do it like 20 something miles an hour. So it's pretty badass. Munasha says the airplane might have been looking for EM emissions, looking for whoever was controlling. I mean, yeah, it could be anything. I mean, what is a big balloon gathering while it treks its way across the United States? Monty says, why can't we work with technology in such a manner as we did to defend against IEDs using EM? Yeah. I mean, that's all on the table.
Valid.
Crazy Pete said, you made fun of the media around Miss America, which was entirely justified. Yeah. John says, ass is sure smart. That's debatable. Gonky, get your mom in here. She'll say some nice things. Maybe. No. MedTech says, Mover and Gonky are about the last guys I'd call misogynist. Absolutely, the Miss America segment was not making fun of her or the pageant. Pointed that out to a friend after. Thank you.
Thank you.
I think you just can't talk about, if it's not glowingly positive, people are like, you're attacking. And it's like, we got to get away from that. You'd never make it in a fighter squadron.
No.
Never.
No.
You'd never make it out there.
No.
All right. So moving on to our next topic. Gonky, I'm afraid to say this word, actually. And why they use this word. Douglas, what is an air littoral?
I've been trying to figure that out. It usually refers to the area near a coastline. It's sort of like, where big ships can't go in, like the littoral combat ship. But I'd never heard the phrase air littoral before. I can.
Oh, it's literal.
Research. Yeah.
Is that how we say it? Not littoral.
It sounds just like literal. I mean, you can say littoral if you really.
Depends on which parish you're from, there, Mover.
Say it carefully.
I'm trying not to. I'm trying here. All right, so we're not going to use
Google it
at all. Please do. So the article is Drones, that word, and the Looming Irrelevance of the United States Air Force by David Barno and Nora Ben-Sahil. Today, the U.S. Air Force faces an almost existential crisis. During the past several years, the service has been battered by the loss of its prestigious space mission to the Space Force, struggled to balance the continued acquisition of expensive new manned aircraft, and rapid developments in unmanned technologies. We once published the catastrophic success of the Air Force, which argued that the service completely dominated the air domain for so long that it was not prepared to fight the bloody war for control of the skies. Valid. Biggest problem is the masses of uncrewed drones have wrested command of the air away from the manned aircraft in the skies above the modern battlefield. Drone revolution means that it will be very difficult, if not impossible, for services to achieve air superiority in future conflicts. They talk about Ukraine. For 70 years, Air Force maintained the unbroken air superiority over every battlefield in which air troops fought. But why now? Drones have been around for decades. The war in Ukraine has dramatically accelerated the use of drones in ways few could have predicted. They fill the skies above the battlefields in numbers that were simply unimaginable 2 years ago, conducting vital missions in surveillance, intelligence, early warning, precision strike. They are so crucial to the Ukrainian operations that President Zelensky called upon his country to produce 1 million drones in 2024. And he hopes to receive another million drones from NATO allies and partners. The U.S. military is woefully unprepared for this. Newly contested subdomain. The drone inventory looks nothing like Ukraine's. Failed to keep pace. Countering drones is the other problem. It's one of the pressing tasks. And obviously, the F-35 remains important for high-intensity conventional warfare, but they're planning to buy 1,763, which will remain in service to the year 2070. That's $130 million for buying and operating life cycle. But he's estimated that a single Chinese sunflower suicide drone is only $30,000. Gonky, you could buy one. So you could purchase 16,000 sunflowers for the cost of one F-35A. And since the full mission-capable rate of the F-35 is hovered around 50%, opportunity cost of about 32,000 sunflowers, which do you think creates more problems for air defense? Obviously, the Army, we talked about, canceled its future reconnaissance helicopter. They retired its aging Shadow and Raven legacy drones, and they want to buy 600 Coyote counter-drone drones. Air Force needs to learn air superiority has fundamentally changed, reoptimize the force for greater power competition. The breathtaking advance of drone warfare is ongoing conflicts, meaning the meaning of air superiority and challenging traditional notions of air power. And the reason I brought this up, Gonky, is because, dude, this is fascinating to me because I wondered, we talked about, think of the horse, right? Going into battle, you would be, the knights and everybody. If you were rich, you were on everybody would be on a horse, and then the tanks came about and bigger vehicles that could throw projectiles farther away. And now the horse is a luxury item, and the car is what the poor people have. Yeah. It is interesting to me that we're sitting here talking about 5th gen being obsolete in an environment where it may or may not work. And I think it's a good point. And hear me out. I'll let you hit the counterpoint on this if you'd like. But hear me out. Ukraine has shown us that a solid IAD system almost negates the need, because it's a small conflict, right? And so it's a bit of a microcosm. It's not necessarily a big regional or a big global conflict or World War II or World War III or anything like that. It's a very regionalized conflict. So everybody's in their integrated air defense zone as soon as they take off. And there's an article we're going to talk about later about the Su-34 nightmare and the fact that the Russians are losing Su-34s at an unprecedented rate, and they've lost the A-50s. And when they put the Patriots in place, and now they're using these suicide drones and stuff like that, you almost find yourself in a position where you don't need traditional air superiority, because there's nothing that's airborne that can shoot these little drones down. And so, because what is air dominance? Air dominance is our ability to secure the air so that the troops on the ground can operate without any kind of restriction. So we can attack strategic targets, we can attack tactical targets, we conquer command of the air, and then we move into a close air support scenario. But those strategic targets are the first, 6 to 9 days of the war, and then we clear the air picture, our Zamboni driver friends, the Eagles, then move out and let the other jets do their jobs. Well, in a scenario where drones are the way you operate, whether it's big drones, the Sunflower drones, the 30,000 drones, because remember, something that's always been a concern is having enough weapons. And if you can overwhelm a fighting force because you don't have enough missiles to shoot down 30,000 drones at one time, or it's just airspace saturation, it doesn't matter. You could have the 9th gen fighter and you just can't. You're swarmed, you're overwhelmed. But then you take that, so that's, the 30,000 foot level, but then you take it down to the 10 foot level, the 15 foot level, where you've got these little small drones that are, radar's not going to pick them up. They're flying between trees. What do you have at this point? So it does provide a shift to where you do need to worry about the small drone that is going to take out your platoon, because they can drop an RPG right in the middle of you, and all you heard was a little bit of buzzing before that. So I ask you, Gonky, does this change the way we think about air dominance, or does it become a situation where we exploit the weaknesses, which are data links, their ability to communicate, because something has to operate them. Now, AI, different story, but right now, these first-person drones are being operated by somebody. So, are we talking, how do we deny these drones and go back to the war that we're used to fighting? Or does air warfare turn into hypersonic missiles and drones?
Yeah, I read through that article. It was pretty eye-opening. It really got me thinking. You kind of hit the nail on the head, man. The whole, as fancy and as, snooty as the Air Force thinks they exist to get the 18-year-old proverbial, like soldier with a machine gun on the bad guy's real estate, period, dot. everything is support for that guy. All the ships, all the helicopters, fighter jets, you name it, it's all there. So, I got to thinking, like, who's to say that, I mean, what if you could make like 100,000 little micro drones, like the size of I mean, they're small now, but 10 years from now, they get even smaller. And at some point, they're basically not undetectable, right? And you combine it with AI, they don't eat, they don't sleep. You could just release them. They just keep going. Yeah. I mean, I think it has the potential to not only, make the Air Force, maybe irrelevant's not the right word, but it's definitely made me think that future warfare is definitely has the potential to be drastically different, because if you can take it, we're getting a glimpse of it, like you said, in Ukraine, these, guys wrenching on the A-50, getting it ready for the next day's mission. All of a sudden this drone shows up flying through the woods. They don't see it, they don't hear it, nothing in the place, right? It's got a warhead on it, it blows up and takes everybody out. It's almost like having like thousands of little assassins.
Yeah.
I'm reading in the comments here, EMP. I don't know a lot about, EMPs.
Well, you have to, so EMP works both ways, right? If you just randomly drop an EMP, you have
Lights
to be
out.
shielded.
Yep.
You have to be able to protect your own communications.
Yeah.
It's not just a one size fits all, because here's the thing with drones, manned aircraft, we dogfight, we do BVR because it's man versus man, and we're trying to claim that airspace. Right. So we clean out that air picture, and then we can operate autonomously, like Afghanistan and the Iraqi wars, both wars. But it's man versus man. In this case, there is no clear air picture because drones have no reason to fight each other, because they're one way. There's no death. You are basically creating a missile. It's just, we're not calling it a missile, we're calling it a drone, but that's what it is. It's fire and forget, because you can build 30,000 of them. You don't care. You lose one, you lose a F-35, and guess what? That's on the news. Yeah. Because you got the pilot too, and somebody, but it's different because we've kind of joked about this before, right? About drone v drone, who cares? Because, eventually it's just a video game. But this is not drone v drone. This is drone v soft pink body in a foxhole that very easily can be killed by a hand grenade, that he or she never knew that was on its way.
Yeah, man, like I said, I read through that article, and it made me think of not just the Air Force and how they do business, but like the Navy.
Oh yeah.
Right. You showed that picture of like 6 carriers all parked there in Norfolk. It's not going to be, the Japanese steaming half a fleet from Japan and launching all these piston powered airplanes. You can launch these things at night. Nobody knows. Weapons are much more powerful these days, and do a lot of damage. I have to think there's guys sitting in rooms just doping this stuff out.
You hope.
I hope so.
That's the thing, is right. We're speculating as people that aren't in DARPA. We don't know what the next technology is. Gonky doesn't know anything about drone tech. I don't either, except for what's off the shelf. I have used my drone before, but I just look at it as, I could see a scenario where we rely heavily on missile systems and drones, and that is your air war, because what else is there after that? Because if the 18-year-old in the foxhole can open his backpack and throw up a drone and kill the fighter that is 100 meters away, well, do you really even need the close air support picture anymore? And the same thing with these strategic targets. The fact that Ukraine is getting into Russian territory and taking out high value assets or oil refineries or any of that stuff, let's assume it's true. I know we've talked about a lot of stuff that's coming out of that theater. We don't know if it's true or false or verified or unverified, but let's assume it's true. Dude, that is, and then that goes back to, what's stopping them from coming here? You know, we always project power, but with a open border, what's stopping them from coming here and inflicting mass casualties against us while we're trying to fight a war thousands of miles away?
Well, I mean, the other thing it does, which is, you know, super scary for a superpower, is I think it totally levels the playing field.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
I mean, you got a 9th gen fighter. I don't care. When it's parked on that ramp, I'm going to take it out and you're not going to know.
Yeah.
You know,
well,
I mean,
dude, look at World War II. We had to, we sacrificed thousands of our own airmen to bomb factories, to bomb infrastructure, because we had to, right? That was the only way we could get that ordnance there. A 6-man soft team, a special ops team can now get in the country, and each one has their own drone, and they do the same amount of damage or more.
Yeah, I mean,
that is the scary part, is the asymmetric warfare potential that you now run into, and you have to have hardened targets. I mean, everything has to be a hardened target against that yesterday.
Yeah, but then I mean, then it's about the personnel, right? I mean, you know, everything can't be hardened, right? I mean, you know, you can take out equipment and you can take out people with these things, which is
so the other piece to it too, because we can't just say, well, the Air Force is obsolete because, you know, we're fighter pilots and we think fighter centric, but where the fighters are going to still be necessary, or at least some capability, is for the mobility side of things, because you're still going to have to move stuff. You still have to move troops. You still have to move supplies, tanks, all that stuff. The only way it gets to the battlefield, because that's what holds the territory, is the boots on the ground, but you're still going to have that. So I can still see the fighter being that escort, but, you know,
might be a drone escort, man. I don't know.
It could be. I mean, it could be the, you know, it could be that the loyal wingman is just attached to a C-17 somewhere, and hey, Fido, go kill.
And he's willing to soak one up for the team.
Yeah. Yeah. But even if it is willing to do that, we still can't afford that level of attrition, because you still have to build them.
That's
you know,
true,
so the self-preservation still has to be there, because if you lose all your drones, guess what? You know, and then it becomes a manufacturing battle. And that's what happened in World War II as well, because that was a meat grinder.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the counter is towards this. We've talked about it a little bit on the show with regards, you know, like, hey, how's the Navy handling this stuff? And it's pretty clear to me they're you know, they're grasping for something right now. But it'll be interesting to see if what kind of weapons come out of this, man. As far as, it might not even be weapons, I don't know, but whatever the countermeasures are.
Dude, we need the modern version of Doolittle in this conflict. Like, that is what it's going to come down to. It's going to come down to who can be the most innovative and not get stuck in, we've been fighting wars the same way, because that article made a lot of sense in the previous article. 20 years of fighting an uncontested air environment has made us soft, lazy,
weak.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%, man. Because that's where all the money and the funding.
Yep.
And I mean, even, you know, a lot of the Top Gun briefs I got was all laser bombs. I mean, you're right. 100%.
And with the way our acquisitions process is right now, I worry about our ability to get up to speed fast enough, because look at the T7, look at the MH139, look
F-35.
Dude, we're so bad at this now.
Yeah, I know.
Anyway. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I mean, there's only a handful of very large military companies in the US, and it's almost like they have a stranglehold on it, and it's just like, man.
Well, they have a stranglehold on fighters and large aircraft. Drones, they don't. So there is a chance now, as technology grows. I mean, AI especially. We remember Falco. We did the AI, the DCS thing, and the AI versus that. I mean, that's a small company. They just bid for it, and it worked out. And look how they're advanced through their processes. We ought to get them back on the show because I think they've done a lot of cool things since then. Dude, all I will say to finish this topic off is I was not a believer until this war, till the Ukraine. This has opened my eyes to like, hey, we're not the top of the food chain anymore.
Well, I mean, and the Houthis, right? I mean, you've got,
yeah.
I mean, like I said, it's like who the who's
Houthi.
Right.
Houthi.
But what I'm saying is like you're out there poking the United States Navy, dude, it's everything about everything about drone technology is to me it's kind of scary. Like I said, you combine that with AI and some weird Terminator stuff, it starts going off in my head, which I don't like it. You know, because maybe.
All right. Yeah. All right. Let's get to the comments. Thank you for that topic. Zippers Forever says some 05 threw that into a PowerPoint will make 06 because they created a new doctrine. Maybe. Literal is Clutorus's cousin.
Oh, Laura, that's funny.
Can't find either of them. Martin says from the article, the air. Why do you keep making me say this word? It stretches from the Earth's surface to several thousand feet below the altitudes where most manned aircraft fly, and is now dominated by masses of drones. Yeah, the tree line. Monty says USAF needs to redefine themselves, their missions to irrelevant and real current challenges. I am very worried about day 4. We have a very thin bench day 5. Yeah, you're right. Bob says, I hope that the rapidly deployable countermeasures for drones are in development. Unfortunately, I'm sure it'll cost far more than the drones themselves. And they are. We've talked about it on this show. Directed energy weapons. I think the Israelis have used like the netting and stuff. And that works to some degree, but you can't net everything. Didn't they put that on a ship? Didn't we have that on one thing where they had the netting over the ship to keep it from?
I don't know. If you get a decent warhead on there, net's not going to do much for you.
Okay.
I don't know.
Mont, sorry about the chopped up message. Day 6 will we be regressing back to mission specific air platforms and pushing Gen 5, 6 to safe spots? I mean, the safe spot is the important part, but the question I go back to is what is safe?
Right.
I mean, if you are allowing people through your border unvetted, nothing is safe. If the coyotes in Mexico have the access to bring any, I wrote this I've written this in books. Go read my books. I talk about this all the time.
The shameless plug. Go on, Mover. Where can we find your books?
Amazon. Moonasha says this is just the beginning too. Wait until they load these tiny drones into cluster munitions with the ability to autonomous. They already have that. It's already a thing. Aaron says Elon Musk had an interesting take. I think he's right. It will look more like trench warfare of World War I because missile technology has almost exceeded aircraft capabilities. Yeah. Zippers Forever says a soft scenario is an extension of beacon bombing of our day. Small teams plant beacons behind enemy lines and manned airdrop using that signal. Imagine using that as a drone nav aid. Yeah, scary. Tom P says we do this stuff at the Joint Readiness Training Center. We'll have drones along foot trails and take footage of units, then listen to the after action report and how they said they did this. Then we show them footage of what they really look like. Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
All right, dude. Less depressing, faster and funnier. The Navy is this depressing or no?
The
Navy has a replacement plan.
Kind of, yeah. So it's kind of a short article, but basically the Navy has taken a lot. They've taken some money and put it towards the future replacement of the T-45. So I flew the T-45. It was the T-45 TS total syllabus, right? So back when they first bought it, actually from the Brits, they modified it for carrier use and created an entire syllabus because prior to the T-45 and advanced training, you did like the T2, then you went to the TA4. So they just wanted one airplane, does it all. They've been using that airplane for, I think, almost 30 years now. And it looks like that, they want, so in the training command, they're not going to the carrier anymore in the T-45. So they need a T-45 replacement, but they don't need it to be carrier capable, but they still need it to be able to basically do a carrier approach to the field, right? So in the Navy, we fly angle of attack. which in my mind, I'm like, well, you still then have to build, strength and gear and all this nonsense. So I don't know. They're looking at everything, right? They're looking at the FA-50, the T-7. The Navy's timeline is pretty ambitious. I think, scroll up there. I think it says 2026 is when they want their first replacement, but
2028.
2028.
Oh wait, potential
Yeah.
contract award in 2026, and at the bottom it said IOC in 2028.
Yeah, 2028. That's pretty aggressive considering they
Yeah,
haven't
right.
they haven't even picked one yet, right? And I don't know if you can FCLP, so like practice carrier land on shore a T-7. I don't know if it's if it's that strong, or any of the other jets, the F-50 or anything else they're looking at. So the Navy's got a plan. I don't know how it's going to pan out, but
Dude,
kind of like the T-38, the T-45 is getting older, and the T-38 has been around a lot longer, but the T-45 being operated off of carriers, it's pretty hard on an airframe. So I mean, I'm not surprised it's about time. I flew the A model, which was, they were okay. They were phasing them out for the C model, which was basically an all glass upgrade. But even back then, I was like, man, this thing's kind of old. But I don't know, Mover. Do you care about the Navy's future jet trainer?
I care about America, but I have questions for you,
Yes, sir.
Gonky, because I'm going to act like the interested observer here. Because I remember this from my Strike Fatron days.
Sure.
We would come back and bounce at the field.
Yes, FCLP.
And it's a different prep than at the ship. So
Sorta.
Is it easier on the aircraft at the shore, or are they just accepting, like, because I see it kind of like your track prep, I prep the car to go to the racetrack.
Yeah.
But, just hot rodding around town, not that I would ever break any laws. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I know what you're saying. So yes, the ship landings are more aggressive, and that's usually because the pilots flying them, it's their first time out there, and they get a little freaked out, and it's pilot induced hard landing. You could do it. You could do it at the field too, but at the field, your brain tells you there's a 12,000 foot runway and they painted a 500 foot square there. And if I go a little long, short, nobody cares, right? But it is, if you do it properly, they feel about the same, other than the fact that you're not grabbing the wire because you're doing practice right at the field, right. FCLP. So the grabbing the wire does cause stress on the airplane, and also the catapult launch is quite stressful. They have to build a pretty honking nose gear apparatus to withstand, being flung off the front of the ship. But the airframe has to be pretty sturdy, just for the no flare, the 3 degree right into the ground. So like I said, I don't know if the T-7 is built to that standard or any other airplane.
Why did they get rid of it? Like, why are they not bouncing anymore?
No, they're not going to the carrier.
Right. So why are they not doing that?
Because the argument is magic carpet, and
so if that's the argument, then why even do it at all?
Well, because you're building a habit pattern. So
this is for like just when you're coming back, like, before they usually bounce when they come back from a mission. This is not like dedicated practice.
No. So if you go, so the idea this is in my mind how I see it. And this is how I was trained. It's like, okay, you select jets, you're going to be landing in the Navy. You're going to be landing on an aircraft carrier. This is how we land an aircraft carrier. So to your point, Mover, there's no point in doing a carrier style landing at the field. We're at the field. Right. Why would we do that? Let's just flare to land, right? Mm-hmm. But the idea is every chance to come around the horn, see the ball, the Fresnel lens, practice flying the meatball, and practice, hitting your numbers, right? Your wickets around the corner, you're maintaining your AOA. that is valuable practice for when you actually go out to the ship and do it. So you've done it 100 times at the field. That's just 100 more times you get to practice your scan. And they don't want guys flying, let's just say hypothetically, T-38s in advanced training, and then they get to the Hornet rag and they're like, okay, no more flaring, ground effect. You got to hold it. They want consistency in the training is my guess, and it makes sense to me because.
But if you're, I mean, if you're using, so if the argument is magic carpet always works,
it helps.
And that is all we ever do. Because, we've talked to like a friend of ours who used to fly the F-35. He basically said, if it's not, it's an emergency, right? That thing works 100% of the time. If not, the jet is something is wrong with the aircraft.
Right.
So if that is the assumption, and your assumption is we're not going to go to the boat anymore because magic carpet and the automation is so good that we never have to do it again, then it then become like an ILS. Because you don't practice an ILS every time you come back to the field, and that's a different landing than just your normal fighter, tactical landing. So does it then become something you practice in the sim, you get spun up on, and you don't do it for the first time until you're with Fat Amy, in which case you don't need a trainer that has anything to do with it because you're just teaching the building blocks of just tactical flying?
I mean, it's a valid point. I mean, to your point, there's been plenty of Air Force exchange guys. We had Spanish exchange guys come who never flew the T-45. They probably went to NJEP, some of them.
Yeah.
And, right. And then, as part of the good deal in the Hornet, it's like, dude, let's get your boat qual, right? We teach them in the Hornet and they're perfectly capable. Now those are experienced aviators. I don't know, how a brand new guy or gal would fare. And to be honest, you're probably right, but I don't know if anybody's willing to push the test. I never experienced magic carpet in the Hornet. I've had a lot of friends that have, and I ask them about it, and they say it has really lowered the stress level of landing on the ship. But they say it works all the time, but I just think that
we did a mishap report where the guy didn't know what mode he was in.
Right. Well, right.
He does the shit hot break, and next thing you know is power call. And
well, I think, I think even in commercial aviation, technology is great. It makes things easy, but I would argue that stick and rudder skills, when I was when I was a RAG IP, even now I say it, like the guys that flew F4s, F8s, it's like, man, that's back when you had to have skills because the jets weren't as good, So I don't know. You're right, man. It may be a case for, hey, technology is just going to replace a lot of this skill that used to be required. Do I think it's a good idea? No. It's always easy to have the skill and then add the technology, vice versa. But I get it when you're dealing with dollars that don't seem to be, there's not a lot of dollars out there right now. So,
and that's the argument, right? You already have the T7 as an order. Now, granted, is it ever going to come online? I mean, it probably won't make 2028, even if they selected it today. But if you are so reliant on this technology that you say that we don't need to go to the boat, then you're either thinking simulators or you're just, wait till you get to the F-35 and do it, because it's not going to be the same. You're not, the stick and rudder stuff is not the same.
Yeah. Man, I don't know. It's, I don't know. And I've even thought, I'm like, man, why even have a trainer? Just send them straight to the RAG and just have an intro syllabus, because the Hornet's a super easy airplane to fly. I'm not sure you'd want to do it in the F-35. There's not a two-seater, but
it's about getting their minds up to speed. That's why you need that intermediate trainer, is because, a T6 goes 200 knots and everything else is 300 plus.
Right. But I mean, you could argue that with the, why do we need it to fly the FCLP pattern when it's never going to go to the ship, right? I mean, I get it. Again, I'm just looking at both sides of it. I mean, it's kind of like, back in the day in the Navy, you flew the TA4 and then you went to the A4 rag, right? I mean, that was a full up warplane. They just made a trainer version.
We're just in an austere financial environment where
like that.
We can no longer afford to do things just because it's the way we've always done it.
We can't afford the military we want. I get it.
Yeah. Anyway, is that all you wanted to talk about on that one, Gonky?
I
missed some chats for you.
I missed the T-45. It's great, fun little jet. You know what? I tell you one more thing about T-45. I always wanted. I would love to get a T-45 mover and you get in a T-38 and we just.
I wouldn't.
I think that would be fun. You think so?
It'd suck. I don't want to fly the T-38. Why are you hamstringing me?
No,
that
dude,
it's terrible.
The T-45 is not very good either. I'm not sure who would win.
I don't want that.
I'm not sure it'd be the pilot's fault either.
I say no. No, thank you. We go Viper VT-45. I'll take that bet.
Of course you will.
T6 versus T-45. I'll take that bet.
T6
but don't put me.
Win.
Look, dude, I flew my last T-38 flight. Don't make me have to fly that thing again.
I miss that jet.
Garrett says, I thought I would get lucky and fly the T-45 at flight school.
You might.
Zipper Trevor says, so naval aviation students will no longer land on the boat until they're in the RAG or a fleet squadron. Seems wrong. Yeah, that's what they're going with. Zipper Trevor also says, what if Magic Carpet doesn't work thanks to damage? Do we train for combat? So the way it was explained to me by a Fat Amy C pilot, C, like a C Amy,
like the letter
Fat C Amy, is that for it not to work, the aircraft is just not flyable. Like it is so dialed in that the failure modes are basically the aircraft is not controllable anymore, and you wouldn't be doing this anyway, according to the Fat Amy C pilot. I may be wrong. I may have misunderstood because, again, when you guys start talking boats, it's like, whatever, dude. Admin.
Well, I mean, I don't know. Like I said, I've seen it tactically where we give students all the toys up front. I've said about I was a Super Hornet and a Legacy Hornet IP at the same time. And, you turn on all the toys, they kill everybody, right? If you start taking away stuff, whether it be to battle damage or jamming or whatever, and it gets real colorful. And I think that's what could potentially happen, kind of like Zipper saying here. It's like, what if, right? If it's made by man, it's defeatable.
Devil's advocate. We fly millions and millions of hours with airliners fully automated. And they only learn automation from day one. Everything else is in the sim.
Yeah, that's such a controlled environment, though.
Okay. Kate says, no worries, gentlemen. Never offensive. A bit of friendly sarcasm, gentle ribbing is good for us. Mover, you and Luna were stellar in the interview. Thank you, Kate. Let's see. Monty says, I worry about Nav-Air. Magic Carpet is awesome, but Zippers is correct. Nothing works all the time. In all environments, got to be able to fly the ball for real. Okay. That's Gonky's point. I don't know anything. I'm just counter arguing just because, but it wouldn't be interesting if I didn't. D-Fire says it's cheaper to learn and get carrier landing mechanics down in a Goshawk than a Gray Jet.
Yeah, that's true. And the T-45 is significantly harder. I think it's harder to land on the ship than the Hornet was, just because it was weaker.
Right. Okay. So let's go back. If you get a trainer like the T7, which is fly-by-wire and Gucci, and it flies like an F-35, what are you getting? If it's easy, like if they're both
sight
easy,
picture. Like it's.
But does it have Magic Carpet too?
I don't know, man. I mean, I wouldn't want to push to test this, but like I could probably turn off everything and just fly the pattern almost just by seat of the pants to get pretty close after a while because you've done it so many times.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Hey, if Magic Carpet and all the electronic stuff's never gonna fail, all right, you willing to bet? You willing to bet the Air Wing on that? Okay, that's over to you.
Well, they're already betting that the Flickus is not going to fail. I mean, the jet itself has gotten, that's like saying back in the day, well, if you don't have pulleys and not pulleys, but push rods, you don't have direct connection to the flight controls, then are you willing to bet your life on the flight control computer? And we do bet on the technology, because otherwise we wouldn't have the electric jet or the Hornet or.
So look, man, I mean, we got ACLS, ILS, and TACAN. So one night I came back to the ship, and you do the night recovery, and I get behind the ship, and they're like, "Hey, ACLS, lock on, say needles," and I'm like, "Negative needles." They're and the next thing they say is I can't remember what they would refer the ILS to.
Are you a real pilot, Gonky?
Yeah, but I told them
that
it was almost always needles. They said, "Say needles." You're usually supposed to stay up and on, and I didn't have any needles. It has negative needles, and they said something else. I was like, negative that, and they said basically like, "Hey, you're cleared. Bring it aboard." So I had no nav aids. Is at night, and what I did was way back in one of these sims, they made us memorize, and I can't remember it anymore, our self-contained numbers. So at 3 miles, you want to be 1,500 feet. As you're coming in, like, you need to be at these altitudes. So that's what I did, and I was able to land, do a safe recovery with no guidance at night behind the ship in a Hornet. And I can't remember why it didn't work, but trust me, I was frantically pushing little buttons, trying to see if I screwed up anything, make sure they have the right freak. But technology, take it from somebody who it has happened to. It does fail. Now, maybe because it's brand new, it's not failing now, but I mean, Mover has your radar ever failed? Has anything electronic in your fancy airplane ever failed? The answer is yes.
Does T-45 have a HUD?
The C model. Yeah, the C model does.
Do they get to use it?
They do, yeah.
All the time?
You practice. Well, I flew the A model, dude. We didn't use the HUD, but I would imagine, just like in the Hornet, you practice no HUD recovery.
Ryan says, speaking of training, do you think the Cirrus Caps parachute hurt airmanship and troubleshooting, engine out, slow down, pull shoot versus checklist? No, because I think they realize they total their airplane if they use it, right?
I read somewhere where the shoot,
it's not
actually like caught, because people were like, "I got this parachute," like it actually didn't make it safer.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. I wouldn't want an ejection seat.
Yeah.
Masek 10 says, what do you think Rickenbacker would say if he saw a 5th gen fighter jet? Well, golly, that's a big old jet. That's a big girl.
That must be a bomber.
Did he live in a trailer park too?
It's from Ohio, man. Might have.
You got a trailer park in Ohio.
Got 2. Yeah. And by the way,
no?
Thoughts and prayers, man. I guess a big tornadoes ripped through Western Ohio, through a couple trailer parks in Western Ohio. You can't
spring that on me now.
Yeah,
I did that earlier during the serious part of the show.
You sprung it on me, man. But yeah,
about Ohio. Okay, Bluey's mom, Shilly, and I said mom right for the Aussies.
That's right.
Good evening, gentlemen. When are y'all going to come down under? So
I've been there
to speak. I've never been.
Yeah, I went to Australia in 2014. I went to Sydney. It was amazing. I loved it. Rented a Harley. Rode up. Was it 7? I went to 7 Mile Beach. Is that right? I don't know. Then we went into the mountains, saw the Three Sisters. It was amazing. My wife loved it.
Okay. Well, Gonky, Navy, FA, XXX, fighter delays.
Yeah. So they're delaying about $1 billion of funding for their next generation fighter, and leadership saying it's because we got problems now. We need this. We need this money now for, they claim people, but I think it's a little suspect. I think it's You know, if you read the article, talks about stopping the Hornet production line, and it talks about a little bit about the, you know, the F-35 thing. And then I thought is pretty interesting. It's like the Navy's like, we don't want to do another joint F-35 effort with the Air Force because, shocker, the missions are quite different when you're dealing with well, these kinds of airplanes, 5th gen, 6th gen type airplanes. So yeah, I mean, standard stuff, right? They're looking at proposals out there, right? I'm sure all your big aerospace contractors are still in the mix. But I think the Navy, I always thought the Navy did a good job of heavily investing in the Super Hornet, kind of knowing F-35 would be late.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if they're doing that now. I mean, gosh, the Hornet's been kind of the backbone for 30 years, and I get it. They kind of want to move on, and it's pretty apparent to me. I get the impression the Navy doesn't have, like, the F-35. I don't think is going to be their workhorse. But I don't know if I don't know if leadership regarding the next generation fighter, I don't know if they're going to manage the gap, because we'll talk about it here in a little bit about the F-35, but it has taken it 20 years to get to full rate production, right? I mean, how do you, you know, with all the delays and stuff, how do you plan for that? I mean, you know, good on them for dealing with the problems now that they have. Because if you don't fix the problems you have now, there might not be a tomorrow. But I don't know. Mover, what do you think? I mean, the Air Force is right, developing their 6th gen. The Navy is too. They're not gonna play together anymore.
Dude, I don't know how we procure anything anymore, like any service, because you really, I mean, look at all the news right now from all the contractors. Boeing is a dumpster fire. Lockheed's having issues with their upgrades for the F-35 production stuff. I mean, look how long it took Tyndall to even stand up with the F-35 when we were talking about that. You don't have enough competition. The consolidation of the industry has created such a problem that I just don't know how you plan for it, because you don't really have a competition anymore, because it's the same players, and the same players, they win this award, and then they give you this timeline. Well, first they give this unrealistic, okay, we'll do it for, you know, $4 trillion. Oh, well, it was actually about $6.9 trillion, but you're already invested and it's too late to go back because they already threw away their models. So you lose that, because once they have them, and there seems like there's no accountability for the actual production IOC and all that stuff. But then when you finally get to that point, it's obsolete. The technology has, we're in this cycle where by the time it actually gets IOC, we've run our previous airframes into the ground, sometimes figuratively, sometimes literally, and we're already thinking about the next generation of fighter. I mean, think about it, dude. We're not even fully, the F-35 is not even where it should be, and we're talking 6th gen fighter, because it's snuck up on us. It snuck up on me. I mean, maybe I'm just not paying enough attention, but like at this rate, we're talking 2040s before we even see a 6th gen fighter, because just look at how long it takes.
Well, and then more importantly, I mean, what characteristics, what is the threat that the 6th gen fighter is going after?
Drones.
Right. We talked about drones. So, you know, it might be a thing where the Navy's like, dude, like, I think 6th gen fighters are relevant, you know, at this point. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't envy them, because the decisions you make now can lose you wars tomorrow.
Right.
And that is the scariest part, because we are the leader now, but we may not be the leader tomorrow. And it only takes 1 or 2 innovations while we're in debt up to our eyeballs. We're cutting back. I want to talk about these retirements. Like we're losing capability with no actual replacements for these aircraft. So what do you do?
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're grappling with that, and like you said, I mean, I don't know, man. I don't know. I for sure there will be more delays. That's the only thing. That's the only thing that you can actually bank on is for sure there will be more delays, and the F-35 and the Hornet will fly longer than intended. I mean,
yeah. Well, I don't know. It's not my. I'm just a innocent bystander, Gonky.
I know. Just.
All right. So Vulcan says, Mover, when you switched to the Navy, did you have to carrier qualify? I almost did. I came close. I was on my way to 106 and I tore my MCL ACL 6 weeks before, or was it 4 weeks? It was like a couple weeks before I had my class day. I was supposed to go with Sully. Remember Sully?
Yeah.
He and I were going to go together. And he went and I didn't. And then the second opportunity was when they were doing a deck cert on the TR. And they basically said, we've got too many people. We're trying. Well, you weren't in the squadron, right? That was 2013.
Yeah, I came right.
You
after.
hadn't shown up. Yeah.
Right.
So they basically said, we have too many like experienced guys that haven't been to the boat in like decades. We don't want to risk it with somebody who's never been to 106 because they're like, you need to go to the RAG. You need to go to the RAG and do the syllabus. It's too high risk to put you in right now with us. So I got the opportunity to ride on the COD. And then I was ODO for the entire time they were doing the deck cert. And then I walked off the ship. So I got to spend a week on an aircraft carrier, but I didn't get to land on one except for the COD, a C2. I got a C2 trap under my belt. I'm sitting backwards.
Count it.
It's one of my bigger regrets, to be honest with you. I wish I'd have had that opportunity. The dude, like, it was like I turned 30 and then my body fell apart. I busted my ass running with the dogs, and my knee went one way, like they went one way, knee went the other way, and it just, I was out for a while, dude. That sucked, but that would have been the good opportunity to do it with Sully.
Yeah, it's probably a blessing, man. I mean, did you caught off or did you caught on?
Caught on. I walked off.
So you never got. I
didn't get a cat shot. Yeah,
dude.
I got the trap, but no, not the cat shot.
I used to be a big car guy. I still am. I love cars, but man, the first cat shot, man, my Camaro, I used to drag race and stuff. Like the first cat shot, especially in the Hornet I was like, all right, pointless now.
Well, I mean, I don't know, because I've pulled like 9Gs a lot. And when I did Daytona in a race car, the G's were different and fun because it's a lateral, like it's not the,
it's different.
It's different, but fun. Yeah. It's different, but fun.
It's different. In heaven, there are cat shots every day for me. So,
all right. Rose says, thanks for the last mental health minute every week. Are we doing one of those this week? After 6 months of med consults and 3 DQ letters, finally got med approved to submit my application for OTS. Make them tell you no. Now I'm just waiting on the CAD board results. Awesome.
That's awesome.
Congrats. Where are we? Oh, in the news, Gonky.
Yes.
And people will always, I don't know why people get mad at the way we say gripping.
Say it right.
That is the way I went back and watched the interview I had with the Saab guys, and that's what they said. I don't know, gripping. It's gripping. The Swedish Gripen conducts its first visual identifications over the Baltic Sea as a NATO member, which, as you know, Sweden was recently admitted as part of NATO. They joined our fine organization. And one of the first things they did an air patrol with coordinated with the Swedish jets and the Belgian F-16 fighter squadron, or fighter jets. It's redundant. They're just fighters. And they intercepted and VID'd a Russian Tu-134 that was not on a flight plan. Later in the day, another AN-26 showed on NATO's radar screens, and the KAOK alerted the German Quick Reaction Force alert interceptors to launch and establish further details. The Swedish Gripen jets were also launched, and they conducted a VID on the AN-26. Sorry, so they VID'd the AN-26. The Tu-134. Yeah, so they did. So they did both. They did two.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a picture of them, the Gripen and the Viper
jet.
Yep, that is some kind of gang sign he's doing. And then there it is with the
look at that
German Eurofighter.
That's
what do you
cool.
think looks better, dude?
Man, they're both good looking, Matt.
Yeah. Well, you're very vain, so I didn't know.
Yeah,
maybe.
I like I don't know. I like the Typhoon because it has two engines, but
yeah,
the Gripen is
the canards look. I mean, it looks like the dinosaur. You know, the one that'll spit the venom at you when it.
Oh,
you know what I'm saying?
Well, dude, the Typhoon's got the canards too.
It's more like a catfish. It's more like whiskers. It's farther forward. Like this looks like it's. You know,
they're both good looking jets.
Yeah, like you're that fat guy in Jurassic Park. Here come the hate comments. Mover and Gonky were so disrespectful to the Gripen.
I'd like to fly both.
Yeah, but you don't want to fly that third one up there. What is that? It's an airliner. Who cares?
That's a TU. That's the TU, whatever.
That is just, that's some dude trying to not die.
Yeah. They've probably got their cameras out. Look, a Typhoon and a Gripen.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought that was a good thing to talk about.
Yeah.
They're part of NATO. We've talked about them as far as, which we got hate mail for that one too.
Yeah.
About them and producing jets for Ukraine, or you're given the Gripen C or even the Gripen E. I will say that aircraft is awesome. I've done the interview with one of their test pilots, and we've seen their demos. It's a 9G jet. It's got an awesome turn radius, and a great software suite. You know, if you ever look at it, it's got all the MFDs and stuff. So I think it's awesome that they're not neutral. They're part of NATO, and they're now an asset and an ally. They've always been an ally, but an actual NATO ally. So the fact that they're out there and going to work, this is more symbolic than anything. Obviously, the Eurofighter or the Viper could have handled either of these scrambles, but the fact that they're going up there and showing that they're not only committed to the cause, but actively participating, I think is pretty cool. And what it does is it demonstrates to Russia the resolve. I mean, Russia started a war of aggression and created a situation where they were trying to avoid Ukraine becoming a NATO partner and keep people from joining NATO. And what did they do? They forced a very capable ally to join NATO, and now it's even stronger. And now, you know, if something does kick off, they're even more, we're more capable.
Yeah, it also shows the Gripen's ability to work with, other NATO jets, right? So I think that's one of the things that we did very poorly, especially in the Navy, is playing with others. We primarily just flew amongst ourselves. Even like within the air wing, within you and your sister squadron. So, obviously the F-16 and the Gripen have different capabilities, but and the Typhoon, of course, but to work together to do a real world intercept, I think that's really cool. Needs to be more of that.
It's the allies you want to have.
Yeah.
You want to have competent, capable allies that are willing to pull their own weight. So it's awesome that they're a part of that, and we welcome them.
Yep.
Awesome. Moving on, we got let's see, one more start, and then we'll go into full rate production here. Monty says, you guys do a great job. Honor, support your channel. Bravo Zulu, both of you, to you both. Thanks, and your team. Thanks, Monty. Gonky.
Yes, sir.
Talk about I changed it because you had a different word for it. What in the world?
Whoa.
Okay. Yeah. Douglas. What is that?
That was a misclick.
It's a quick article. It's kind of it's kind of crazy, right? Full rate F-35 production has been approved just as the U.S. Air Force cuts the buy, right? So they're not going to order as many. They've already made almost 1,000 F-35s, which to me is kind of crazy. The fact that they've made already about 1,000 of them, and it's just now reaching full rate production. So what does that mean? Moving to full rate production requires stable control of the aircraft manufacturing process, acceptable performance and reliability, and establishment of adequate sustainment and support systems according to DoD. And I mean, the article kind of expands on all that and what, but it's shocking to me that it's been 20 years to get to 20 years, 1,000 jets to get to this point. And
has it been 20 years?
Yeah, man. Oh,
holy crap.
2, right, is one.
Jeez.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's unacceptable. You talked about it before. And I get it. World War II, it's like what? I don't know. 6 months, the P-51 went from an idea to a flying machine. I get it. This is more complex, but on the same token, literally by the time the F-35 is like full up, it's obsolete, right? Potentially.
Well, they're upgrading. I mean, they've got the upgrades and the blocks and all that stuff, which are also delayed, and then they have to add the other things. I mean, from everybody I've ever talked to, other than BFM, they love it. Like when you're talking just employment of sensors and dropping bombs and making
fusion.
The sensor fusion. And like if I had to go run a defensive counter air scenario or an offensive counter air scenario with all the sensors and situational awareness and all that stuff, everybody loves that. SEED, suppression of enemy air defense, whatever you're doing. The thing is like a Swiss Army knife. When it comes to BFM, it's not, it's Fat Amy, but everything else, it's good and they love it. But to get to this point, you're right. 20 years is a long time.
Yeah. And Mover and I worked in the actual Kumbaya, Marine, Air Force, Navy, all hold hands, Joint Strike Fighter, Mecca they built, and that literally disintegrated.
Fell apart.
Eglin Air Force Base has like the only like Navy ship mast out in front of a squadron, I think, in the entire.
That's right.
In the entire Air Force, because it was.
Yeah, they moved out.
Yeah, they moved out, and it was. And correct me if I'm wrong, Mover, but like when we moved into that building, I was like, oh, this feels more normal because they had a ready room. They kind of built it
in the ready room. Yeah, we used the ready room. They're ops desk.
Yeah, they built it kind of like right. So like, and it didn't last 10 years, right? The Marines were the first to be like, no, we can't do this. They took their toys and left. And then, the Navy is like, nope, not going to work. And they left. So I just,
I'm trying to think of, our timeline. Cause I ran the first Red Air det out of New Orleans for the F-35. When they were at Eglin.
Oh yes. I remember.
Was that 2015 or 16? I think it was 16. It was either.
They brought 2, right?
No, that was before that. That was like 14 or 15. When they first showed up, they brought 2. Yeah. They came and met us. They gave us, here's what we can do, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I'm talking the first time where we actually put up jets to fight them. I was the first officer in OIC.
Yeah, the dead OIC.
For the det, because we were detting out of New Orleans.
That's right.
And we put up very simple, here's some, because they had just moved into Eglin. And so that was probably 2015, 2016. Hurricane Michael happened in 2018. So we moved into Eglin in 2019. And by the end of 2019, they were gone. So that's less than 5 years. I mean, that's a very short amount of time that they were there, and they had built brand new facilities, and they were very, very nice, but they're like, nope, we're moving a little more, because the Marines were there too. Marines were integrated with they were all there, and they refused to talk to each other. Remember, we've talked to our friend that's there, and they're like, well, we won't talk to the Air Force, because the Air Force had been doing it for a little bit longer than the Navy, and they wouldn't.
Yeah, so the Top Gun guy, apparently things have probably changed, but the Top Gun guys were basically doing 4th gen tactics with a 5th gen fighter, and sim guys who just run the sims for everybody. They're like, hey, Top Gun dude, you should go talk to the Air Force. They do better stuff because they've been doing 5th gen for like 15 years now. You should probably go talk to we're Top Gun.
Tomcats.
Yeah,
we still do Tomcat tactics.
Yeah, but that's just
Yeah.
So I'm not surprised that the Navy is not at all interested in developing the next fighter with.
But hey, good on them.
Yeah,
we finally better late than never.
At least they realized there was a problem.
Yeah. All right. Anything else to add on that one?
No.
Yeah, me neither. I've got something very similar that I wanted to talk about today. Air Force aircraft. There's no S. It is we're going to talk about more than one aircraft, but it's aircraft retirements. Gonky. So the Air Force has pursued major aircraft retirements in 2024, and in their 2024 budget, it calls for, and this article was March 13th. Well, this is old. Well, this is not the right one. Never mind. We'll skip it because I had one that was newer. I'm going to find it and we're going to move on to the next one because I thought this was the right article. My apologies, Gonky. Because they did recently do another cut and they're retiring a whole bunch of other stuff. So if Doug can't find it, we'll just move on. Actually, you know what? We'll just move on to the J35 because Doug is going to read the entire thing in French. And I want to look for that article.
Oh, Doug, you found the translator button.
Yeah, if I was going to read it in French, I'd have to change it back now.
Yeah, when Mover first sent me this article, I'm like, is this a joke? I just X'd out of it. Yeah, so the Chinese, while they're expanding their carrier force, they're trying to bring the next generation of fighters on board. So this is just them, and we do it in the States too, right? Part of aircraft development is logistically, how is this going to work? So they've got some models here of the J-35 out on their, this isn't their latest carrier. I can't pronounce the name, but the newer carriers the Chinese are developing have catapults. The old ones have the ramp, as you see in the picture there. But yeah, so the J-35 is kind of it's kind of the knockoff of the F-35 sort of, but they fixed it. They added another engine, right?
I was gonna say, dude, they listened to you.
They fixed it.
Gonky, honorable Gonky, sir, like 2 engines.
That's right. And I can say that because I'm Asian. So, that's right. Now, unfortunately, they copied some of the less vain, I can't.
The backwards canopy.
That.
You can't be cool with a canopy that opens the wrong way.
No. And then, we talked a little bit about aircraft design as far as being carrier capable. And I guess if you're just doing FCLPs, you don't need it, but you see the guy standing by the front nose gear. So that is clearly a naval variant because you can see that big brace bar coming from the fuselage there to the nose gear. And a lot of them, have the dual nose on the front. I'm sure if he is out of the way, or maybe I can't see it, but there's probably some sort of launch bar apparatus on the front.
You can kind of see it by that ladder.
Yeah. So, honestly, there's not a lot known about the J-35. It's kind of one of their newer stealth jets, but hey, there's going to be a naval variant of it, and they're already testing its suitability as far as, well, this thing, can we put it on a carrier, on all of our carriers, and move it around? Get it below decks. Did the wings fold enough? I don't know.
Well, that's what I was just about to say, Gonky. It doesn't look like the wings fold at all.
Right. Crap. Right. It's like, damn it. I knew we forgot something.
Yeah. Look at that. Seriously. Do you see a hinge for?
No, I don't. But it's stealth, right? Maybe that's under the skin. I have no idea.
It's stealth.
Yeah. You just can't see it, dude, because it's stealth.
Yeah. It's invisible.
Yeah. I don't know. We had Rick on, and he would say those engine nozzles aren't very stealthy. That's what the things you learn, right, from an engineer.
Yeah, but that Fat Amy's isn't either, right? It's got the The big nozzle in the back too. It looks like it's got some kind of EOTs on the nose. Like look underneath the under the nose there, similar to the F-35.
Yeah.
So I mean,
it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. I mean, we're gonna see it launch off carrier apparently, and it'll be able to. It talks in this article about the thrust, and it's all in tons. I can't do that. I can't do movers commie math.
Oh, here comes the hate comments.
Oh no, commie units.
Oh, the communism.
But it's a communist airplane, so I mean, good on you. Use your units too.
Gonky, do you think they use magic carpet?
I don't know, man. You know what? Yes, I'm sure they do. Their copy version of it, whatever.
Control C, Control V.
Yeah, true. Exactly.
Oh, there you go. There's the J-15, the heavy fighter derived from the Su-33.
Launching off the ramp. Yeah. So apparently the J-35 is going to be able to operate off both. So it's going to be able to do the ramp thing and the catapult.
That's like full flaps.
Yeah, the whole ramp launch, they did it with the Super Hornet, because they were trying to sell it to India.
Did they really?
Yeah, you can watch it on the YouTubes. They built a ramp and they put some ordnance on a Super Hornet just to show you that it could launch off of a ramp style deck, but I don't I'm a naval aviator. I'd probably try it,
Yeah, you can fly anything once.
You can fly anything. And because it's an up trajectory, if you had to punch out, you'd be okay. But still, the thing is with the catapult, you can fully load the airplane. That's the big bonus, right? But catapults take up a lot of room and space, and the ships have to be bigger, and just all kinds of other things.
Maybe they figured out in-flight rearming.
Maybe they got little orty drones.
Just show up and rearm, refuel. John reminds us that for legal reasons, all impressions are jokes.
That's bad.
And bad.
Yeah. Good on them. Good on the Chinese. I'm excited to see how far they go with this.
All right, Gonky.
Yes, sir.
Try this one again. Nope.
Not that one.
The Air Force's aircraft retirement. So here's the funny part. The article I found was from a year ago. So they keep doing this. This is like it's a broken record at this point because we keep having to retire aircraft in our budget. But this one's much worse. So that's why I wanted to bring this up, is because the Air Force wants to retire this article's from Breaking Defense, the defense budget for 2025. They're going to retire 250 aircraft as part of the $188 billion FY25. We're very fixated on being competitive with the pacing challenge of China, which we just talked about. I think the budget that we submitted moves us forward. And so it's an increase of about $3 billion, which is the Space Force is growing. And we're worried about China, like we talked about. And then there's this whole Fiscal Responsibility Act. It was capped at $86 billion in 895. They're procuring fewer fighters, more missiles, and no ARRW. So they're procuring 60 jets, 42 F-35s, and 18 F-15EX. I don't know if it says it in here, but basically they're going to get fewer EXs because they had talked about, I think the initial buy was like 100, and now it's actually down, and they keep reducing the number of EXs because that never goes wrong. And they're going to continue the acquisition of the monstrosity known as the KC-46. If it ain't Boeing, it's probably not going. Or is it going? Who's going with Boeing? For legal reasons, that's a joke, and I very much love my life. Please do not
me too.
Come after me. Same thing with the Boeing MH-139, which they're going to procure fewer of, and that's a different article altogether. They're buying fewer MH-139s because of they've decided which bases it's going to go to. So some helo bases are just going to have to keep the old Huey. And then 7 T-7A trainers at a cost of $233 million for 7 trainers.
That's wild.
That's crazy.
Wild. And they're going to buy how many?
7. 7
no,
for
I mean,
200.
But it's like 300 something, right?
Yeah, 353 million for the low rate initial production of the B-21.
Wow.
And of all the things, the B-21 seems like it's the shiny penny because it's like on schedule. It's for now, knock on wood, for now it's on schedule and doing what it needs to do. So I've heard. Somebody's probably going to correct me in the comments because I've probably not kept up with the news, but compared to the relative dumpster fires that we have with our procurement, it seems to be the best.
Yeah, you're right.
825 million for 550 JASSMs, 115 long-range anti-ship missiles, and then advanced anti-radiation guided missile extended range, 128 of those. And then they need to buy AMRAAMs, that's a good one to buy. If you're going to buy something, that's probably the one to buy. And then they're getting mixed signals about retirement. So here's what they're retiring. Did we find out what an ARRW is? Do we know what that is?
Is that their early warning?
ARRW, air reconnaissance. Oh, here you go. Air launched rapid response weapon.
Oh,
isn't that the thing we were just talking about that we need? Oh, first hypersonic weapon is now more clear. Although a key test still remains, whose results are official, will inform future investment decision. So this is their hypersonic stuff. Retirements. Here's the bad news. The divestiture of the A-10, which has been protected forever, 42 retirements. They're now seeking 50. So last time it was 42, now it's 56. And the goal to clear out the inventory before the end of the decade. Kennedy wanted to get on the moon by the end of the decade. We want to get rid of the best CAS platform in the world by the end of the decade. Total list of 250 retirements the service is seeking are as follows: 32 F-22s. That's that one. I mean, so that's the early blocks that we've talked about before, the ones that they're having trouble upgrading. We did talk about them wanting to extend the life. I can kind of see that. 26 F-15Es, kind of weirdo, so I'll allow it. 11 F-16Cs. Why? We need those. Send them to Ukraine, though, probably. Which they have not. I'm not going to start that rumor. To date, there are no plans of any U.S. F-16s going to Ukraine. They're all from other countries. 65 F-15Cs, and dude, that's pretty much
That's it, isn't it?
That's it. I mean, what else? Because really, all that's left.
This is Guard 2, right? This is Guard 2, right?
Yeah, this is just total 250 retirements. So this is going to take a chunk out of. You figure 20 something per squadron that's left, Portland, New Orleans.
Right.
So that probably leaves 1 or 2 squadrons left total. With
is Jax done?
Jax is going to the F-35.
Yeah, but they're still flying them now.
They're still, because they're booming the trailer parks. 56 A-10s, 22 T-1s. So this is a bad one just because of the pipeline thing. But they have to because of the engines. Now, from what I understand, they're having some success with the idea that they go T6s straight to the SIMs. So once they get their wings in T6s, that's it. They don't need the T1 because then they hop in the SIM at Altus or Little Rock or whatever and go to town. So there's that. 2012 HH-60s. I don't know anything about the Hilo world, but it seems like a lot. 6 C-130Hs. The Hs are old. The J models are now, even the Js are old now. By now, like Keesler has the oldest J models out there. Mm-hmm. It's what? 1 EC-130, 2 CV-22s are ready. Good Lord. 1 E-11 and then 16 KC-135s. I don't know anybody that's going to cry about that one.
Right.
Not because we appreciate the gas. Nobody kicks ass without tanker gas. But as a receiver, it was always like, man, I'd rather the Gucci Mafia, the KC-10. So much easier to refuel on.
Dude, I think they're retiring the KC-10 this year, right?
It's not on the list. That's the list. So they requested some R&D dollars for the Collaborative Combat Aircraft Drone Wingman program. So that's good. But we know that's going to be probably a disaster in acquisitions like everything else. Hypersonic Attack Cruise Missile Research. E-4 Night Watch Doomsday plane was going to get some more money because Doomsday is coming. it'll be here. And then a battle network concept with the Combined Joint All-Domain Command and Control Initiative. A lot of acronyms, a lot of PowerPoint. And then there's going to be a 4.5% pay raise for airmen and 4.2% increase in housing allowance. And then Agile Combat Employment Initiative is going to get some more money. And we've got some tough choices when we get into 26. Dude, this is starting to sound like the New Orleans Saints salary cap. Like, we start kicking the can, and then we're like, oh, we don't have any good players left because, well, we don't have any money. Sorry. But anyway, that's the budget stuff. And I just wanted to talk real quick about the retirements. A-10 being the biggest part, but as you can see, no community really is, except for like the F-35, is unscathed.
Yeah. You know, I don't know. It's so strange, man. You read about all these shortfalls, and then it seems like they're retiring some airplanes that still have could still be relevant, but you know, it's just a surface level article, right? So who knows? I'm sure it's money driven. You know, like how much is it going to cost to keep the Air Force going? And they have to cut somewhere, right? So it's sad to me, especially the A-10. I think that's probably the greatest CAS aircraft ever built.
Yeah.
And I think it's a shame that we would ever retire that airplane. I've said it before. You need A-10s. It's not going to be stealth required every day of the war.
Yeah, it just depends on what war we're fighting.
That's true.
You know, I mean, in some ways, helicopters, Apaches and stuff are maybe the answer. I don't know. It depends on what the laydown is.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. And where they're fighting, I mean, I wouldn't want to be in a helicopter fighting, in the mountains of Afghanistan, but yeah.
I'm biased because I just flew the Apache with Casmo DCS. So
Dude, the Apache's awesome.
I am the greatest. I am now the greatest DCS Apache pilot in the history, and I have a pocket full of quarters.
With no eye dominance issues, I suspect. No. Dude, it's just there's you want to use different tools for different problems, right? So
yeah, no, I know we're just in dire straits. That's what it comes down to. We are now up to our eyeballs in debt.
Yeah,
and the bills are coming due, and the choices are having to be made, and it's not the free for all that it once was, because we just can't afford it anymore. You either have the military that you can afford.
How can military planners plan when the government is on a constant CR?
You can't.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Like I have friends at higher headquarters, and it's like they're
what do you do?
They used to plan out flying hours 3 years in advance, and then you get to this, it's like, dude, this is nothing. We're having to just take from one, put in another, take it from, like, it's just a shell game.
Oh yeah, we've seen it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Moving on to some comments before we go to the Su-34 nightmare. Let's see. How do I get rid of this banners? See, this is why it's less stressful when I'm on Casmo's channel. Yolkian says, sounds like Gonky needs to try the Su-33 and Kuznetsov in DCS.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. Greg says,
Thanks,
hey,
Greg.
from Covington, longtime listener, first time catching it live. Gonky, did the helmet expose ever happen? Mover,
Yes.
Pretty sure we overlapped at LSU class of 05. Max the Pup says, hey, so I only went to LSU E with Douglas as my professor from 2001 to 2002. I am a graduate of Tulane University, the A.B. Freeman School of Business, which I have used. I think I've used my business degree a little bit.
Yeah,
Not
sure.
in the military, just in general.
Whatever you got to do to justify it, man.
Did you do a helmet expose?
I did. It would be on my
The Ready Brim?
Yeah, the Ready Room channel. November, I did a live Q&A, and that's when I went through all the helmet stuff. Can't remember when in November, but it's in November.
It's not in the current command center, that's for sure.
No helmets in here.
Crazy Pete says, in 2008, I was still flying missions in Iraq with the 1963 C-130Es.
Wow.
Good for you.
Nice.
That's older than me.
Still going.
Janitor's
strong.
back. Janitor's back.
Janitor. Hey, man.
Mover, where are you required to wear the female underwear? Listen, we don't
You
want
have
to
a
get
panty on
demonetized.
your head, son.
Oh, hey, Luna's here. She made it. You know, she's only not shown up when Mace was here. I think her contract specifically states she can be the only princess. She's had a lot of interviews lately. She's been on TV a lot. She's very famous.
That dog definitely knows time. It's always at right around 9 o'clock. That dog can tell time.
She's got to watch. This is her bedtime. She's like, wrap it up, human. You've done enough for today.
I love it.
Mark says, thanks, y'all. Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, Mark. Thanks, man.
I would like that. Says, hey, dudes, just to thank you for this fun podcast and the mental health minute segments. It's all very appreciated. We'll get to that here in a second. We'll blitz through these next topics. Clitoris says, I know new aircraft designs are desired, but what's stopping them from just firing up the plants and making all new existing airframe that are modernized? Money, bureaucracy, kickbacks.
They've done that with the F-15 and the Hornet. They've kind of done that.
They never shut it down, though.
They shut down the Eagle, right? Well, no, you're right. The Eagle was going. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Saudi Arabia and Japan.
South Korea.
Yeah. Eric says, evening, gentlemen. The KC-10 will be out of the fleet by September 2024.
That's what I thought. Yeah.
What?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Long live the 135, one of the last good aircraft that Boeing built. 13-year 135 crew chief. Nice. I'm sorry for all the 135 dudes and dudettes that I've offended.
Dude,
I will take the gas.
We call that bad boy the Iron Maiden in the Navy.
Yeah.
6 foot of hose was not friendly.
Yeah, it was not Viper friendly either. All right, moving on real quick. So we kind of alluded to it here, and then we'll get to the LATAM thing because that's about all we have time for tonight. Because Luna has said it is bedtime, and she's in charge. So the Su-34, Russia's fullback fighter bomber nightmare has begun, and the national interest has put this out. And I want to reiterate that Luna's got her own cam. A lot of stuff has been unconfirmed.
Right.
And we talk about that a lot. So we're going to assume this is true and discuss it as if it is true. But it doesn't necessarily mean, because we just don't know. Fog of war, a lot's coming out. But Ukrainian anti-air forces have targeted the Russian Su-34, and they've downed 13, per their claims, in February alone, including 13 total aircraft, 10 Su-34s. And then it basically goes on to say Russia's failure to secure the airspace over Ukraine was an early setback. It hampers the invasion. And then they're basically looking to boast their anti-air successes, talking about this. I will note that for the most part, and I think actually for all of them, it's all been via some surface-to-air threat. And they have 100 of them. So they've basically, 13% in the last month. So Gonky,
yes, sir.
That's kind of what I wanted to talk about, is just the relationship of kind of what we were alluding to before about air wars changing in Ukraine, because this is not traditional, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is not the F-16s, the MiG-29s, the Su-30s or Su-27s or whatever. They're duking it out. This is Su-34, sometimes in their own territory, either getting shot down by Patriots, man-pads, so man-portable air defense systems, or their own people, or at least that's what they claim, their own SAMs or Russian SAMs on the Ukrainian side. So, I mean, do we think this is kind of how the warfare change happens, where, I mean, it's not a traditional air fight?
It's tough to say. I read that article, and I read a couple other ones, and like you said, it's hard to see what the facts really are. So what's bringing them down? There have been reports of drone attacks, and then a lot of, like you said, probably Patriot batteries taking these airplanes down. So, man, I don't know. It's really hard. It's hard to say without knowing what's actually happening and getting around the fog of propaganda. But, if it is true, just for discussion's sake, well, then, if you're Russia, it's like, well, economically here, it doesn't make sense, right? I mean, you don't, to lose I don't know how much it costs, $80 million fighter to a, $10,000 drone doesn't make sense, especially when you're knocking them down, in significant numbers. So, that will drive, if that's actually happened, that will drive tactics, that will drive Russia's decision making as far as, when and where and how many of these fullbacks they're going to send, or any other expensive airplane, A-50 included.
So right here it says another option for them to increase production, but that's not really a possibility. I mean, you got to remember they have sanctions. They're at war, so they're already at a kind of a war footing. But it says they've acquired. Newsweek reported that they had 140 total, so it's a bit higher number than the other number we had just had. And Ukraine has claimed to have down 35 of them. But open source intelligence trackers have said they've only shot down 25. So it really doesn't matter. Like, even if you split the difference, right? I mean, at any double digit numbers of losses of think about it in terms of the Raptor. We only have 180 of them, 169 flyable, whatever at this point. I mean, 10 losses in a month or 13 losses.
I don't know, man. Based on journalism these days, I look at it like the Marine ace, right? Is it 7? Is it 5? No, it's actually 0. Like, it's like a way 0.
Yeah. Well, we have seen video of. I mean, they're at least shooting down a couple. And
yeah, dude. Yes, just taking the story for face value, I think it has to create change, because even Russia is not going to be able to keep that up. I mean, you're not going to be losing expensive assets like that. We'll just crank another one off the assembly line. No big deal. It doesn't work that way. Even Russia has budgets,
crews,
right?
Pilots.
Right.
I mean, even if you get shot down and survive, dude, you're not combat effective right after.
Right.
It takes some time, and you may never get back in the cockpit.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, if it's primarily drones, that's going to drive change in tactics. If it's the Patriot, I mean, Patriot's pretty awesome. It's the real deal, right? You can be in a lot of different airplanes. It's going to bring you down, but I don't know, man. It's too bad we can't get accurate reporting.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, you're damned if you do, if you're damned if you don't. If we talk about this, it's some of it's fake, some of it's real. We can only talk about what we have. I mean, I will reiterate, we're not a news agency, so we are just discussing as fighter pilots, we're not Reuters breaking you news here. We're just talking about the kind of the what ifs.
I tell you, as a fighter pilot, like when I see stuff like this, and kind of taking into account the quality of journalism we have, I always think, like, man, there's probably like a bunch of fullback Russian fighter pilots sitting in their ready room, drinking some vodka, just laughing, like, oh, dude, can you believe this? I don't know.
I don't know.
Who knows? I don't know.
I don't know. All right. Speaking of things that are probably hard to believe, Gonky.
Oh, dude.
Oh, God. Here we are again in the weirdness. Luna has left, by the way. So you got this one, dude.
Oh, I do?
Well, so a LATAM Chile B789, so 787-900, LA 800 from Sydney to Auckland. Isn't that a short route?
Yeah.
How long is that really long enough for a 787? Seems like it'd be different, but they were over the Tasman Sea when the aircraft encountered an upset, causing injuries to 12 people on board. And so I will point out that when this initial reporting happened, the captain, or they quoted the captain as saying that he lost all his displays, and that's why they plummeted toward the ocean and then recovered. But 50 people were injured and 12 were taken to the hospital. One person was in serious condition, because what happens when you experience weightlessness and you are not firmly secured in your seat, which they always say, keep your lap belt securely fastened in the event of unexpected turbulence. Well, they hit the ceiling and there's blood on the ceiling. So that's bad. But the captain later said they had briefly lost their instrumentation. Then it came back all of a sudden. And now the greater speculation within the aviation community is that there was an airworthiness directive about the electrical power or power to the 3 flight control modules reset if continuously powered for 22 days. That addressed that one. So people said that might be it. But then there was another one that came out on March 15th. So after this, and it referenced another message sent out in 2017 advising operators to apply adhesives to the rocker for pilot seat movement switch caps to prevent them from coming loose. The message states Boeing and flight deck seat supplier IPCO advised the 787 fleet of unknown condition related to loose detached rocker switch cap on the fore aft auxiliary rocker switch. This rocker switch is located on the seat back of both captain and FO seats. Closing the spring-loaded seat back switch guard onto a loose detached rocker switch cap can potentially jam the rocker switch, resulting in unintended seat movement. Unintended seat movement due to a jammed seat back rocker switch can be stopped with emergency power cutoff switch or by holding the depressed switch. Please note that an inputting an opposing 4F switch command will stop powered movement. As soon as the 4F switch is released, it's going to go back. The preferred option is to shut off power. Boeing is looking at updates. So Gonky, here's the thing. How fast, right? How fast would a seat have to move? Because I just picture the Austin Powers slowest thing ever as it's like, no, into the control. This is an argument for your Airbus because the yoke is dumb and in the way. The yoke. You got the yoke.
Right.
But does the seat move fast enough to create such a startle factor that you're just like, you're along for the ride. They get into the negative G and then they fight to control it to come back to level flight because they didn't catch it, right? They ended up in some kind of dive that punted some passengers. And then why did the captain come back and say he lost his displays? Was it to save face? Or is that what happened? Or is it a red herring? What do you think?
Well, I mean, what I think is just probably all speculation. I take that back. It is speculation.
100%.
100% speculation.
0% factual information other than what I just read you. Even that's not factual. That was speculation too.
Yeah, kind of based on what the captain said. I think something happened that probably startled him or them, which caused it. People are so quick to be like, "Oh, it's a Boeing. It's a Boeing." There's probably some, something wrong with their. I don't know. I mean, we'll find out. With that many people, with that many people injured, and with the scrutiny. I mean, the microscope is on Boeing right now, so the people are gonna want to know. And I don't know if you saw, Mover, they went into the factory. It's actually Al Jazeera went into the factory there in Charleston, right, where they built them, and they asked the guys and gals building the airplane, would you fly on one of these airplanes? And they asked 15 people and 10 said no.
Are they in contract negotiations though? Is it like some union thing? Because you can watch it for yourself on the old YouTubes, but all I'm saying is, okay, you look at it from a big picture. Latam, however you pronounce it, might try to hide it, but I think it's going to come out. I mean, people are going to want to know what about the 787? And it's come out. It's not like the gentleman who is no longer living, who testified against He's
Boeing.
from Louisiana. He's a Louisiana boy.
Right. His own words. Hey, this isn't a 737 problem. It's a Boeing problem, right? 787 is built by Boeing. I love Boeing, by the way, just full disclosure, and I'm a very happy person. But, I we're gonna find out. Kind of based on what he said. Hey, I lost my displays.
I'm on the other end of that. I'm on the other end of that because I think like the wheel falling off, the other issues that Boeing has had, some of it's very valid. Some of it is. Some of it though is just what you talked about before, the untrustworthiness of the media and the fact that they try to create a story where none otherwise exists.
Valid.
They create a narrative. And who does that narrative hurt? It hurts Boeing, right? But it hurts American workers and people because people, they buy fewer products, all that stuff. But in this case, let's say what I have trouble with the scenario is if it's the 787 has some kind of issue where a seat, an uncommanded seat actuation. Maybe it's just because I flew the 737 and, it's a manual seat and I just, I've never dealt with power seats, but I've dealt with power seats and other stuff before. I cannot see myself getting in such a bind that I am now laying on the yoke because his body had to interact with that at the speeds that I've seen seats move. I've never seen a 787 seat move. They could be lightning fast and you just have to catch it. And those guys have the best reflexes in the world. I doubt it because I know our seniority list, but let's just say they are. And they're not, 64-year-old captains and FOs and stuff like that because they're the most senior in the thing. I just have a problem with the idea that it's just a switch and there was no way to stop this. I also have a trouble believing that my displays blanked and I suddenly was facing the ocean. Well, let me rephrase that. I don't have trouble believing that. I have trouble believing that a professional pilot would suddenly lose control of an aircraft temporarily in that scenario because they weren't in any kind of spatially disorienting situation. They weren't like turning or anything like that. They were on autopilot at 410. You lose the autopilot, you lose all this stuff. The airplane just doesn't suddenly nose over unless something else is at play. Now, could it be? Yeah. Could he have had if he had his tray, he's eating his meal, he had his tray on his lap, and next thing you know, it's jammed into the yoke. Yeah, that could be a very valid thing. But as depicted, I don't see this as, the 787's unsafe because the seat can go uncommanded on you, and next thing you know, you're hurtling towards the water. I have trouble buying into that one.
Yeah, I don't think it's the seat at all, but I could see a scenario where the displays blank out because there's actually been numerous mishaps of like the Air France thing, right? The displays didn't blank, but they showed erroneous information and the pilots crashed the airplane. And there's been other incidents as well, but that's why I think we're going to find out, man. I don't think it's the seat thing. I mean, the Airbus has a power seat, which I'm shocked the 737 doesn't have a power seat.
Dude, just the violent nature, even with a power seat, I don't think it would be that violent. I think it would be a gradual, like, because the narrative is right that it slowly hit and it overpowered the autopilot until they were pointed down. But that's not a violent action. A violent action is somebody fell on it. A violent action is somebody was getting up and fell. Somebody was in the seat that shouldn't have been, fell, trying to get up. Maybe two things happened. Two things can be true, but it sounds like I fell into the control yoke. Next thing you know, we're fighting to overpower it to get back up because you need some kind of negative G. You need some kind of weightlessness. You can't, a gradual thing is not gonna, a gradual overriding of the autopilot is not gonna throw people into the ceiling.
No, you're right. It needs, you and I've done plenty of negative G. It's a deliberate bunt, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know, man. It's obviously scary for everybody on board, and thankfully nobody was killed,
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think we're gonna find out.
All right. Moving on. You see who I've got next to me?
She's like, this tail ain't gonna be wagging much longer, mover.
Janitor's back, says he believes Quora. I want to see those Su-34 pilots on the Mover Ski and Gonky show.
Love to have them on.
And then Angie says, getting on a 787 tonight. Hopefully they've already taped that switch.
Yeah.
All right. Mental health minute. Gonky, taking the high road.
Yeah.
I had a whole thing, and Luna has now distracted me. I know, there she goes. She can't. She's clawing at me. She's a good reason that you would take the high road. So the reason I brought this up is because we've talked about haters in social media, right? In fact, we even addressed it at the top of the show. People will say things that are very personal, and you want to respond, and you want to respond in the best way possible. And we've talked about how to deal with that. This is more when, as humans, we feel like we've been wronged. Somebody has done something to us. I specifically, or in particular, for example, I guess you could say, I spent 2 years dealing with a very obese person that wronged me, that I have very little respect for, and an egghead that Blue Falconed is to get that to that point. You can tell I'm still a little angry about it, but through that time, there were many opportunities to not take the high road, to use the tools that were available to find what you will in vengeance. And the thing about vengeance is, before you start a journey of revenge, dig 2 graves. That's from Confucius. I put it in the first in the forward of my Absolute Vengeance book. We're going to plug all the books in this episode
on Amazon.
But the thing is, when you go to their level, when you do that, because there were a couple times, I've talked to you about, hey, well, I can make this right, but what do you get out of that? All it does is it makes you worse. It brings you down to their level. It makes you no better than them. And it's not going to, it might give you some kind of temporary relief. You might feel like, oh yeah, well, I got them back. But it's not true justice. True justice is succeeding in the face of the adversity, succeeding in the face of the haters, doing well even when they're against you, doing well even when they're out there trying to get you, because your mental health you might feel a little temporary hit of, oh yeah, this worked out, but in the long run, you're still going to be miserable. And the only way to find that happiness is to move on, take the high road, turn the other cheek, and carry on with your life, because it'll eat you alive trying to find the vengeance and trying to show that, oh, you didn't get me. Well, you're just as bad, right? What do you think?
Yeah, as usual, you hit a lot of the high points in there, man. Obviously I'm a Christian, and one of the things that you kind of pick up if you read the Bible and go to sermons and stuff is, forgiveness is a huge part of it, right? So, and that's a huge part of taking the high road. I mean, there's a long list of people that have wronged me. I can't even remember, because I've forgiven them and I just move on, right? You don't want to forget, right? Because you need to learn from life's experiences, but you have to learn to forgive, and then literally take the high road, right? Kill them with niceness. It's like a Roadhouse, right? Tells them, just be nice. Right?
Yeah.
For those of you who've seen that movie. But we joke, right? But I own a trailer park, and with my manager, I own a couple, but with my manager, we're always dealing with problems and issues, and I'm constantly telling, man, just take the high road. There's no point in getting ugly. We'll just be nice, cordial, and see what happens. And that has served me very well in business, and it's, it just in life, even before I was, the older I get, I had kids, that's when I've become a stronger Christian. But even when I was younger, I could see like Mover kind of, well, he didn't kind of, is the juice worth the squeeze? If I stoop to this person's level and, go head to head with him, what am I actually going to get out of it? And if you can just pause for a minute and run that scenario through in your head, a lot of times you can see it's like, man, it's better just to, not engage, if you will. But I'm a big fan of it. Take the high road. I'm a big fan of never burning a bridge. And, you just never know as well, whoever's attacking, you never know what the circumstances are either. Right. So we tend to live in our own little worlds, and, which with social media, I mean, I could go off on a tangent, but yeah.
You've said that to me many times about the particular person that I was talking about the dumpster fire of a life that person had, and how, if you go down to that level, you're no better than that. And I wanted to bring up, because that's a great point, about you don't know what they're going through, and not that it excuses their behavior, but you don't want to put yourself on that level either. Right. Because when you stoop to where they're at, you're no better. But when I was going through some of the stuff with the T-38 and all that, one of the exercises you do is forgiveness. And we've talked about it on this channel about forgiving yourself, but it's also forgiving others. And even if you don't outwardly forgive them, you can just write it down. It's a you wronged me. This is what you did. This is why I don't like it. And guess what? I'm letting it go because because you can let it consume you. It can be, it's the thing you think about when the quiet thoughts happen right before you go to sleep, and then you end up not sleeping. It's the thing you think about when you wake up, and then it's your whole life. Meanwhile, that person probably is never thinking about you again. They did the whatever douchebaggery that they had to do, and then they moved on with their lives. Meanwhile, you're completely consumed with it, and it makes you're not the person you should be. You're not living up to your potential and shining in the face of adversity, which is what makes us better. What builds our character is how we react to when things aren't good versus, when everything's working out. But Doug, I wanted to ask your opinion, man.
Well, I had a really good piece, and then your reattack nailed it.
Damn it.
Just in case anybody thinks we script these things. The only thing I'd add is that a lot of us at different parts of our lives, we exist in fairly small, fairly insular organizations. You guys are as much an example as anything, and I'm the same. And if you do stoop to somebody's level and really lay a good one on them, it's liable to come back to haunt you. And the other piece of that is, for me, I mean, I've wanted to do that a bunch of times in my organization, and for the most part, I just outlasted people. People like that have a tendency to flame themselves out, and I'm still here and they're not. So that would be part of my perspective.
Not just you're still there and they're not, but I think nothing. If you were to say, if you had somebody that really came after you, and especially professionally, right? That's usually where some of these things happen, is where professionally somebody tries to end you, and the next thing you know, your face is in the Pentagon.
for good reasons, not bad.
And nothing will eat them alive more than knowing that you succeeded in spite of them.
Yeah, or man, you never know. It might change. You never know. It might change their perspective. Like, holy cow, I was wrong.
Yeah, who cares though?
Right, but I'm just saying. I mean, your actions speak louder than words, man. That's all I'm saying.
So from the audience, Corn Pop's a bad dude. Luna,
wake up.
Hey, girl. They want to know what you have to say. She's facing the door.
She's whining.
She's looking at the door like, what are you doing? Yeah. Okay. Well, any other reattacks on that one?
No. It's good.
There's a starred comment. John always has something great to say. He must have been an FTO. He must have been a trainer, because he's always got these good pieces of advice. John says, people who take the high road recognize their humanness know that they need to be extended grace and accordingly are more likely to extend it to others. Yeah, I agree. And then Kate says, in some cases, restitution is needed. Yeah, you're right. And that would be nice in a perfect world, but I think you can't expect that. She's gone. She's left me. You just can't. Yeah, you can't. I can tell you when something first happens, you think that's the answer, because everybody thinks it's cookie cutter. Someone wronged me. I prove my case. Everything works out and they get their comeuppance. It doesn't work like that. It doesn't work like that. I and not just in professional, but I've seen it in law enforcement where, there's nothing we can do, ma'am. Sorry. That is the unfortunate reality. And it goes back to when we talked about no one's coming to save you. If you sit there and wait for the justice to happen, you're going to eat yourself alive, because you're always going to be thinking about, well, how do I fix this? How do I make this right? How do I get the system to work for me? Because it's not gonna. But if you mentally, internally make it okay, then no one can affect your calm. No one can take that from you if you have learned to live with it and learn to take that high road and move on.
Yeah. Dude, I can't say it any better.
I definitely don't believe anything I say, though, so just take it for what it's worth. Crazy Pete says nobody thinks you script these things.
Good.
Corvette World Rob says, I almost took the dark when some nefariousness cost me my law enforcement career. Faith in Christ, my wife, kids helped me stay on the high road.
Good.
Dude, law enforcement is just as bad as the fighter community. I think it's just something about the type A, high drive, where you get into these cliquish organizations where they try to get rid of people or things that doesn't meet with their mold and what they think. I mean, in law enforcement, I've dealt with this. I'm dealing with this right now with Luna. Who could be mad at a volunteer dog that's only mission in life is to make people happy? Well, I can point to a couple right now that have actively tried to take down this program and are to this day actively trying. But if I stoop to their level, all I'm doing is I'm making that first commenter that said that, I'm laying an egg. I'm making him right, because you can't. You have to push forward and look at the good and ignore the chaff and the chatter, because they're not going to be able to do anything. I mean, yeah, they're going to try, but people will see the good you're doing and realize that it's bigger than all of us. And it's unfortunate that it does cost people their careers, but you have to just keep pushing forward. You can't, if you stoop, the moment you stoop down, you lose that shimmer, that gleam, you lose the polish, you become just as rusty as they are. And who wants that? Colin says, I am bad for not letting things go. I still hold a grudge against an ex I can't forgive because it feels like she wins. And you will. See, I know that feeling, because I always feel like, well, that person, I'm not talking an ex, but I feel like, well, they win. But do they?
Right.
I mean,
exactly.
Do they? I mean, are they really winning in life? Not in that case.
Yeah, that's, what do you quantify as a win, right?
Yeah. Being a miserable human is not a win.
Exactly. They've got to be themselves every day.
Right. Yeah. And the problem is they wallow in their ignorance. They don't even know that they're swimming in poop. They just don't know it. So do you want to go, do you want to go in the pigsty with them? Get some poop on you. The comeuppance may be years later, but I do think that karma is a B. People who are that low eventually face the music, whether you see it or not. I don't know. And I don't think you can rely on that. I mean, it's great. No. It's a great idea, but that's why all these influencers and stuff talk about the power of your mind, because once you lock that down, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter. You are in control, and you cannot allow them to affect you. You're hard to kill at this point. After 5 years as an FTO, it made me Confucius, according to John. Makes sense to me. More of the Southland FTO than the rookie FTO, I would imagine. Only cops will get that one. Jenner's back.
Right.
Just use your turn signal, and 90% of the problems are fixed. It applies for road rage too.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah.
Look at the people get shot.
Oh,
it's like, dude, that guy is an NPC.
Road
you know,
rage is
just
real.
ignore him. Yeah, just ignore him. It's not, nothing's gonna happen. Sometimes letting go means you win. Yeah, there it is. All right. That's it, dude. What else we got? Oh, hey, dogfights.
Yep.
The last one. That's it. It's over. Finally, no more editing. I love the comments of people that are like, hey, you guys should try this. And it's like, dude, we filmed this 6 weeks ago.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
In 1 5-hour Hail Mary stretch, dude.
Dude, I was editing this one, and I think you said my neck hurts about 6 times.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, dude, my neck hurts. We were in pretty bad shape at the end.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah. No voice message this week. If you want to send us something, the link's in the description for Spotify on how to do it. And that will conclude today and this week. Luna's gone. Luna's left. She's in bed now. She gave me my chance, and now she's gonna poop in my shoe. No, I'm just kidding. Luna takes the high road. Luna takes the high road. She just leaves. She doesn't let it affect her at all. She just leaves. She's like, I gave you the chance and now I'm gone. She'll be back though. What do you think, man? Decent show?
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks everybody for joining us tonight. And hope you appreciate the different background.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. Doug, thank you as always.
Yeah, Doug.
Yes,
thanks,
sir.
Man.
Oh,
hey, we're going racing this weekend. Nolan Motorsports Park.
Looking forward to it.
That's it. Lemons. Be fun. All right, everybody. That's enough.
Have a good night.
Have a good night. We'll see you. Bye.